Hey, I think
Can we do it? I
we are
think we did
actually
it.
live, man.
Man, hopefully people can hear us.
Yeah, hopefully everyone can hear. That was an adventure. Every time it's an adventure. Still kind of learning the new software here, but for those joining, thank you. And we are excited to debate with some Christians today about why they still believe. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up my YouTube channel here real quick, just make sure I can check the chats. Boom and boom. YouTube. There we go. Cool. Boom. There we go. All right. Just close on out, restart it on up, and it
Will
should be good to
do.
go. Cool. All right. So,
So you had a thought before we got started here, and I want to hear more about
oh, the
the
documentary hypothesis.
yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. So it's one of those things where it's like the theory of gravity at this point for me, and it might. I mean, there's always room for something not being true. But the documentary theory is that, and we can actually just see it, like in the Old Testament, you can see that there was multiple sources for the different books, which would make sense, right? Obviously, and I don't think anybody really doubts that.
Well,
Even if
sure.
they're Christian or anything, that there's obviously multiple different sources for where the biblical text came from. But what's really interesting is like they even use like their own words for God in the different sources.
What do you mean by that?
So there's the Yahwistic source, which basically when you're reading through the text, you can see that anytime it refers to God, it says Yahweh. And then there's the Elohim source, which every time it refers to God, it says Elohim or El. And then there's another textual style, which is kind of bringing it together in kind of like a later, like kind of polished source, which they call the priestly source. So that's why,
Is that more of like a here's what we want people to digest?
kind of, it eventually like led to that because um there was a time when the priests basically became more in charge of the community. And when they became in charge of the community, they wanted everything to be kind of more like focused on the temple, focused on sacrifices and that sort of thing. So that's where that kind of line came from. But that's why it's so confusing, like when you're reading, or I guess redundant I should say, that you're reading like Genesis, for example, and you have like the story of the creation in chapter 1, and then you get the story of the creation again in chapter 2, but like details are like flipped and stuff. So like man comes at a different time, plants versus animals come at a different time.
Right.
It's like the same thing told twice, because you had the Yahwistic source on one hand and the priestly source on the other hand, but they couldn't get rid of the original sources because people would be like, whoa, 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 you can't mess with our sacred text. But
So
at
you just
the
have more?
they literally, they just have them more, and they actually call them doublets. So that's why you have like Abraham saying Sarah's my sister, not my wife, to one group of people, and then he goes to another group of people that would be like, so first he goes to the south area and does that, and then he goes up to the north area and does that, because you have the northern tribes of Israel and the southern tribes of Israel both having their own like story versions, but neither one of them, when they all came together later, wanting to get rid of their own traditions. So you get all these doublets, and in some cases you actually get triplets, where there's actually three times of the same
So
story,
when you say doublet, you're saying same story, slightly different.
twice, slightly different. Yep, exactly.
A little bit like the Gospels themselves.
Yes, but yeah, actually, that's an interesting comparison. The Gospels vary a little bit each time because they're trying to, I think, accomplish something different.
Right. Whereas this is just different point of
Well,
how
people
is
not
this
wanting to
different?
get rid of their tradition. So what happened was, and by the way, if there are any Christians on the
Yeah.
line, we're just
We're just chatting,
we're just
waiting.
chatting while we wait for a Christian that would like to come up and talk to us about why they still believe what they believe. That's what's interesting to us. We feel we were Christians. We no longer are. We feel that there's just not a good reason to hold on to that faith anymore. But if you do and you have good reasons for it, we'd love to hear it. But yeah, in the meantime, I guess the whole reason this came about was because um, historically speaking, you had a division between the northern tribes of
Oh,
Israel and
the
southern tribes. Yeah, so you had two tribes in the south, 10 in the north. That would be like the full 12 tribes. And the northern 10 tribes were like much better off, more wealthy, more powerful. They had scribes, people that could actually write stuff down. And they were literate, so they had their traditions that they wrote down. But the southern two tribes of Judah, they had their traditions that they also told orally as well. And each group, the north and the south, held very strongly to their beliefs. They were slightly different. Of
got
course, like
it.
Abraham did stuff more in the north for the northern tribes, and he did significant things in the south for the southern tribes. But what happened was when the northern 10 tribes got taken over, and they got taken over first and exiled by Assyria, they fled south into Judah. And when they fled south into Judah, it was a time when the king, Josiah, was like, we need to unite all the people together. And what we need to do is put together like a common text, a common, book, or not book because there were multiple scrolls. But we need to put together our stories so that we all have a common like heritage, essentially. The problem is you had priests from the north that brought a lot of the literacy down, and then you had the priests in the south who had their traditions that they're like, yeah, no, we're the boss now. You guys came into our house, and the temple's now down here in Jerusalem. And so you ended up with this situation where like neither one of them in certain cases wanted to give up their story, so they just put them both in.
So they just weren't quite the same.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, similar concept. I mean, they don't necessarily flat out like contradict each other in the thought, in like kind of like the holistic thought, but the details contradict each
Contradict each
other.
other.
Yeah. And that's why you have these like doublets, triplets, and actually a really good book. This has been known since like the late 1800s. This is not like a new thing. But a more recent
Oh, Justin's here.
a recent author that has written a really good book on this. It's I want to see, it's Richard Elliott Friedman. I love every time I get this book. Yeah, Richard Elliott Friedman. And the book is called The Documentary Hypothesis. Oh, with sources revealed. The Bible with sources revealed. And the thing that's really cool about this book actually is if you've ever read like the story of when Joseph gets thrown inside of the well, or if you've ever read the story of Noah, where it seems like super like disjointed and like wait a minute, like how many days did it rain, and you're just wondering like how long was the flood on the earth because the numbers kept changing. It's because it's the two different sources kind of flip-flopping.
So they're like meshing them together
Yeah,
into one thing.
yeah, and it's super interesting because in this book it's really cool. I actually got the print version just for this because it actually color codes it, so you can actually see. I think I actually dog-eared some of my favorites. You can actually see like where it's like blue is one source, green is another source. And it's interesting because if you just read like the green source, it makes total sense.
Oh.
And if you just read the blue source, it makes total sense. But if you read them both side like in order, it just gets
Aw.
completely confusing. So
Welcome, Justin. Welcome, Amp. Thank you for being here.
yeah, thanks chat for popping on in. And again, any Christians joining, we would really like to know why you still believe. I think that there's been a lot of like new developments in terms of archaeology and science that have kind of refuted the Bible, and it's like kind of a little bit irrelevant at this point. But as a
The Bible
former
or the
Christian,
faith?
kind of both, really. I mean, if the Bible's not real, I don't know how the faith can be real. So interested to hear your point of view, though. We're open minded, and we would just like to chat about it. I'm a former
Oh,
Protestant. You're a former
Catholic.
Catholic.
Hmm.
Did you have a certain type of Catholic that you were? I know there's different
What
types.
do you mean by that?
Well, there's
I mean, I
like
wasn't a Lutheran.
right the non the non-Lutheran Catholic. Didn't our friend
Catholic light.
my best friend
Yes.
Heather, yeah, she said
Yes.
Catholic light is Lutheran.
Yes.
Any Lutherans want to pop on here and defend the fact that you are or are not Catholic light, we'll also have that discussion.
I mean, I don't know what type of Catholic I was. I mean, I guess the kind that went to confession and prayed the rosary on the hardwood floor on my knees because that made it hurt more.
So if it hurts more, it's
Probably better for you.
probably better. You have
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
on down. Are there any Christians out there that also had to do the knees on the hardwood floor? I I was
I
I
mean, nobody specifically told me I had to do that, but for some reason it felt more right when
okay,
I did it that way.
true story. When I was in college, I had a my it was my grandmother's vanity with a mirror on it. So it's like one of those like, drawers things with the mirror. I legitimately lit candles on either side of the mirror and had my Bible, New International Version, open and would read the Bible and pray with the candles with the mirror for some reason because I really thought that it connected me better. I did feel really
Because you were
connected.
looking at yourself?
I am a little bit egotistical.
That's
Maybe that's
hilarious.
why it didn't work.
Justin says Jesus cannot come inside you while you're standing.
Ah, see, there you go. That makes
Makes
a
so much
whole
sense.
lot of sense,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Actually, since Justin's in the chat, you should show your
Oh
mug.
yeah, I am sporting some deconstruction zone merch here.
Well, technically,
Oh,
I don't think it
it's
was
from
from
the
his channel.
no, it was
They
from the
designed the mugs for like a contest or something. I
yeah.
can't remember. We
This
do have yours too, Justin. I know this one wasn't yours.
this is reverse though. This is Jesus loves you. Terms and conditions may apply.
And I can't
So
remember who designed that one.
I don't know. It was too good. I couldn't pass it up. It was a good one. But we are coming up on Easter though.
All the new. Oh, right.
So we should have a special Easter live.
Well, we have big plans on Easter.
I have
Josh has a Jesus costume. We're gonna dress up like Jesus and Mary Magdalene and watch
Jesus
Jesus
Christ
Christ
Superstar,
Superstar.
and with what is the Willem Dafoe one?
The Last Temptation of Christ.
Last Temptation. Yeah.
Just just for the
For the fun.
for the vibe.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. But yeah, again, any Christians popping on, feel
Son of
free
God
to.
asks what we believe in.
Oh, excellent.
Son of God also says he believes in God because he created all of men and all of women. If you'd like to talk about that,
Mhm.
feel free to come up here. We used to believe, we no longer do. We don't really believe in anything. We
I
aren't
believe
convinced of anything, is the way.
in terms of like a spiritual God type figure at this point. Now, I'm agnostic. I would say like if there is like a spirit out there that created everything, that's totally possible. I just don't believe in any way, shape, or form that it is the Christian God by any stretch of the imagination.
Dog.
There could be a different God out there. I mean, lately I've been leaning towards Claude after Gem failed me, but I mean, they answer at least when I, chat with them. But no, I used to believe very strongly. I was a Sunday school teacher, worship band leader, Bible study leader, read the Bible multiple times, and and I just unfortunately that's what made me no longer believe is I just read too much and studied my way out of it. How about you? What do you believe?
So, well, that's not how I left. I left because I was in a very small town and everyone around me I saw every other day than Sunday. And I was like, y'all are not doing what you're saying you're doing here. This is ridiculous. And I was the same way. I would have snuck back into my house at 2 a.m. and then woken up for 8 a.m. mass to go with my family. And I'm like, you guys are all full of shit. And I just kind of stepped back and stopped going. And I don't know that I instantly said, okay, now there's nothing, but I definitely deconstruct from organized religion very quickly.
Bless Casey has a really, really good question, and I super appreciate that question. So they're asking if I had like an authentic. I'll answer for myself, and then you can answer. Or if you want to go first,
No, you
actually, you
go
can.
ahead. Go ahead. My
It
turn.
says, did we have an authentic relationship because it's more than book knowledge? 100% agree, Bless Casey. I 1,000% agree with that. I don't know if you were on earlier to hear the story about me reading through the entire Bible with candles on either side of my mirror and praying. I prayed nonstop. I played drums in the worship band. I led worship band. I cried while I was during these moments. I cried just praying. Even I mean it was definitely a relationship. I truly felt that God and Jesus were speaking to me directly. I felt it all, in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. I gave everything. I gave my entire life. I didn't leave until I was 33 or 34. It wasn't like an instant thing where I was just like, oh, you know what? I don't believe this anymore. Uh,
Still popping off saying, "Oh, you didn't really believe
I
it. You
didn't.
didn't put it into
I
practice."
didn't. I didn't.
Casey, you can come up and talk to us about what you think would have made us more authentic
I
Christians when we
I
believed.
didn't relationship hard enough. Now, Casey, if you think that you've read the Bible more than me when I was a Christian, please come up here and teach me wrong. But or not read the Bible because I know it's not about the book, but if you feel like you've prayed
Oh, sure.
harder,
Not everyone is like
yeah,
biblical.
yeah.
Bible
How
means
was your
all.
relationship when you were like what was your relationship part of the God
How do you?
experience?
Well, okay. So,
You talked about the knees on the floor. Did you do that on
right.
purpose or did you
Well,
were
I did
you
that on
made to
purpose
do that?
because I felt like it was more authentic because I didn't want to get too comfortable and like forget to focus on what I needed to be doing. I mean, I did everything I possibly could to get my hands and my body and my mind into the church, into every I went to every single group I could find, even non-Catholic ones. I went to church more than just Sunday. I I mean, I did I did everything. I prayed the rosary every single night before bed, before school. Like I I truly felt like it was what I was meant to do until I kind of started having questions. Now, my questioning didn't last as long as a lot of people's. It was a little bit easier for me.
She was quicker on the uptake than I
Yeah.
was.
I'm
but
glad you got there.
Blessed Casey also adds curious, did we put what I read into practice? So here, I want to give you an interesting philosophy that I had, and this was really weird for me. Yes, I definitely put into practice. In fact, I got to the point where I believed that humankind was inherently evil, that we were all born with a sinful nature, and that the only way that a person could possibly be good is if you truly believed in God and that the Bible or praying, right? Because for me it was both. I couldn't just pray and not read the Bible, and I couldn't just read the Bible and not pray. It was a thing. God spoke to me directly, but it was guided through the Word. Like if I went off into the woods and didn't read the Bible for 30 years, I thought I would probably get some wacky ideas. I felt like the Bible were kind of like the guardrails
Like
a little
keeping
bit.
you in line, the
Exa-
constraints. Yeah.
exactly. But I felt like if I were to not believe in the Bible, that I would instantly, really instantly, be a horrible person in my mind and in my heart. And interestingly enough, when I left the faith, I was. Now, it didn't last long, thankfully. What happened was all of a sudden it's like my seatbelt got taken off. And all of a sudden now I could do whatever I want. And I felt like since humankind was inherently evil, well then I'm evil, right? I just don't believe anymore. Well, now I can do whatever I want. Nothing's stopping me from lying. The only thing stopping me from lying before was the God in the book and the prayer.
Or you thought.
So I thought, but then what happened was as I got away from it, I realized, well, wait a minute. I don't really want to. Why would I want to hurt anybody? It's not cool. And why wouldn't I
You don't
want to
really need a
help
reason
people?
not
Yeah,
to
right. Yeah,
not want to hurt somebody.
right.
That seemed like a lot of negatives, but I think I got it right.
Yeah,
Like, why do I need to justify the fact that I don't think that's a good thing to do?
Right. And it was kind of actually interesting because before I was good because of what I was supposed to do. But once I didn't have to do anything, now I'm good because I want to be good. And it's actually like more like genuine for me, I guess. I mean, back then I would have said future me is full of crap and confused or whatever, and I get that. So it's hard to understand a little bit until you've kind of like
Yeah.
released the training
I
wheels.
like this comment. King Wesley said he never believed because I assume he, uh, on its face, the Bible never seemed logical. I mean, I wish I had come to that conclusion sooner because there's so much about it that doesn't make any fucking sense. I just, Adele, your BG is clipped. I don't know what this means. You're the tech guy.
Oh yeah, I got this.
You got feedback. Yeah, I just, the Bible's ridiculous. Oh, background is clipped?
Oh, background is clipped a little bit. I don't know. Actually, good question. I'll have to look into that actually.
What does that mean?
Oh,
There's a screenshot.
oh, on iPhone Max, background is clipped. Oh, good to know actually. Okay, cool. Thank you for that input actually. Anybody with like any sort of tech
Yeah,
input as well. Now, we don't have IT, but we also don't have the Holy Spirit anymore. So if there are any Christians that can help us understand why we should believe again, because it'd be way easier, y'all, like to get back into it because there's way more Christians out there than non-Christians. You can talk about church at work, but you can't talk about the fact that you're not a Christian at work.
right.
That'll
I
get
think
you in
about that
trouble
all the time.
where I'm from anyway. We're Midwesterners, so
The Bible Belt.
yes. Yeah. So help us get back to a comfortable level and get us out of hell. You know? We're currently
He says camera eye and some text is covering part of the background, but still readable.
oh, cool.
Cool.
No, that's
Okay,
good
we'll
to
work
know.
on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we believe in the supernatural at all? Ooh, I'm going to defer to Adele on this. My answer for me is unfortunately no, but I do want to know Adele's thoughts because she had an
Well,
interesting childhood. Tell me about this.
my you've pretty much broken me of all of it. I always wanted to believe in supernatural, like that there were spirits or ghosts or something that like maybe we can't explain. But I feel like I was putting that into the gaps of I don't know what just happened, just the same way that I was putting God into the gaps when I was a Catholic. And I don't really have any evidence that any of that
Do tell the story though.
makes any sense.
It's too good. Okay, you don't
No.
have to.
Ugh,
It's just
no,
really good.
it's not.
I thought it was
It's
good.
actually worse the more I tell it.
Well, can I just say it was a ghost story related, but we
Yes,
don't have to
it
go into
was.
it.
It
Okay, it
was
was
as a
ghost
child.
story related as a child. We won't go into details.
Oh, Godric says just believe in Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I'm not convinced, so I can't believe in something I'm not convinced of.
Can you believe
Did the tooth
Godric Cristobal? Is that
fairy?
who said that? Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you believe that the tooth fairy is real? Just like now. Like believe that the tooth fairy is really real. And if you just instantly believe that the tooth fairy is really real, I will believe in Jesus Christ and then I will get to go to heaven. That would be great. And I'll also believe in heaven at that point too. Versus the whole lights out scenario, which I do understand that was one of the freakiest things for me when I left the faith is now all of a sudden when you're gone, you're gone. Now I've come to terms with that, and I'd love to talk about that with anybody if they want to come up as well. Even if you just want to ask questions like
Jesus would refute the tooth fairy.
Jesus, what does that say? It said Jesus would refute the tooth fairy.
Mm-hmm. Because
Um,
Jesus is real, but the tooth fairy isn't.
you know what? I disagree. I think the tooth fairy refutes Jesus because I think the tooth fairy is more real than Jesus. Because guess what? I physically got money under my pillow when I was
I
a kid.
did. I've never had any.
Jesus never gave me a dime. In fact, he took 10% for a very long time. That's
That's true. Even
that's
when
a
you didn't have 10% to give, we've
that's
talked
a
about that.
that's a dime out of every
You got
dollar.
to give your 10%, even if you can barely feed your family.
Tooth fairy gave me 10%. Jesus took it.
I like this. This is, yeah.
So,
That's
anyways,
solid.
yeah. But yeah,
There's
so
a lot of people out here saying Jesus is real and come back to Jesus, but Nobody seems to want to have a
We
conversation.
do have also some folks that are arguing for Satan. So, this could be an epic battle. Who's going to come up first? I mean, we technically do want Christians up. This is more of like a Christian conversation. I do appreciate the chat though, and the people going for both teams. Um, I'm a little neutral. Technically, right now, Adele and I are on Satan's home turf. So, I'd
Oh,
probably,
physically, yeah.
yeah,
Also,
I'd lean Satan.
technically, when I read the Bible, I feel like Satan was a better dude than Jesus.
Well, that's
Like when you read the stories.
that's a really good point. What do you mean by that?
Well, like there's a lot of things that Satan didn't actually do.
Mm.
And the things that he did do was normally because Jesus told him to. So he was just doing what he was supposed to.
So you're saying that's
Satan's the good
because
guy.
Jesus and God were the same person.
Right.
See, I disagree, and I would love for a
Well,
Christian to come up
I
and
guess that
talk
depends.
about that
Yeah.
because that Jesus prayed to God. So why would you pray to yourself if you were God? Wouldn't you just like think about things? Sort of like how I thought Jesus was talking to me when I was having the relationship. If blessed Casey's still on,
Yeah.
that was the thing I think that really was happening. Is like, if you're praying and you're like really in the moment and you're like, I got a feeling that I should do this. What is the difference between I got a feeling that I should do it and it's because your brain is having an emotional response versus it's an actually really Jesus feeling? Like, how can you know the difference? And I would love to have that conversation.
Darkest Flame Master said we got scammed on the 10% tithe that's supposed to be free will from the heart, and we are of the devil.
Dude, can I get a refund?
Right.
Look, dude, the heaven's got gold in it. Like, they can just refund me the 10%.
And for how many years? I mean, that could go a long way.
Decades. Dude, refund is in order.
Can I submit a request? Is
Yeah.
that like a prayer maybe that I need to
Oh,
do
like a prayer request?
to get my 10% back?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think you do need to pray that. They don't have there is no direct line to heaven other than prayer. There's no, I mean, that's about it. So yeah, prayer request.
Prayer request, send me back my money.
Yeah.
Apparently I gave it with the wrong heart.
Gave it with the wrong heart. Dang it. I do want to have this conversation though. If any Christian can explain like how God is like God the Father and God the Son, and they're the same person. Like God the Father sent himself to die. He sacrificed himself to die
to save us from
himself because he was the one
to himself.
If
right. God and Jesus are the same.
Right, because he's like the one that made the whole hell thing possible, right? Without God, there wouldn't be this like, eternal burning, and eternal heaven for that matter. Let's not always just talk about the negative. But unfortunately, yeah. I don't quite understand that. So if anyone can help me understand, I would love to know what, like how and why. And why did he have to do that anyway? Why did he have to die?
Well, right, like he could have just done anything that he wanted to save all of our souls, because like he can do anything he wants.
Ooh, Trembling Thomas has a really good point. He says God is multi-personal. So maybe that's the problem, bless Casey. Maybe I had a relationship with the wrong God.
Oh, the wrong part.
I maybe had a relationship with God the Father, but I was supposed to be having it with Jesus. The Son.
Well, maybe Jesus relays it for us.
But you were tight with Mary.
I was tight with Jesus and Mary.
See, I always thought as a Protestant that the Catholics were crazy because they like made Mary some sort of like God essentially, and there was more about Mary in the Catholic Church.
Why is there still sin? That doesn't even make sense. Right, saving us from our sin, but there's still sin everywhere. We're all still sinners. We all still need to ask for forgiveness, even though supposedly he gave us forgiveness by dying, and he didn't stay dead. Let's not even get into that part. Like,
yeah, he didn't actually sacrifice anything. Like he had a like bad weekend, and then I mean bad. I'm not belittling it. Like crucifixion is horrific. It's horrible. But he knew he was, if he's omniscient, he knew, right? If he's the same guy as God the Father, then he knew he was gonna get risen, even though the Gospel of Mark gets that a little confused. But he knew he was gonna get risen, and then details. But so it's like I've just got to bear it for like a day. I'm saving everybody. And wouldn't you, if you could say, if tomorrow Allah came down and said, if you die on a cross, there will be no more hunger and cancer will go away. So you can't, like, the whole sin thing, whatever. But like, if you could save
Sure.
humanity,
That's actually
would
a little
you?
bit more meaningful to me because I don't really believe in sin.
Right, but would you do it if you had?
Now, do I get the resurrection part or do I just
Oh, you
have to know I'm
totally get
dying?
a
Oh,
resurrection.
well, then yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it would suck, but yes.
and you get to sit at the right hand of Allah for the rest of eternity.
I mean, yeah, 2 days versus eternity seems like a
Yeah,
6, 7.
yeah. Actually, it seems like way better than 6-7. So yeah, and we just lost half of our viewers right
Jody
now.
girl, you were
So it's good fun.
here the other night. You didn't think we were boring then. You thought we were heathens.
Yeah, I hope our moderator's on.
She's not.
Oh damn. Oh, don't tell him that. Okay, anyway.
Just a different one, not
Yeah,
the one to
different.
talk to Jody.
Oh, good. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, self-sacrificial agape. Yeah, that's exactly right, bless Casey. And I'm sure you would do the same thing. Jesus really didn't do anything special. Anyone, if they could save humanity, would do it. Especially if you knew because you're omniscient that you get to go to heaven forever afterwards automatically. Think of how many martyrs there have been in the history of humanity for any sort of religion, not just Christianity, Islam, you name it. If a think of the Vikings, right? The only way you went to Valhalla is if you were killed in battle. And the same thing with the Roman warriors in Elysium. If you died as a soldier in battle, in combat for the country, you automatically went to heaven. So every single Viking that got chopped to pieces on the battlefield and probably lay dying and starving for days before they finally died, I mean, unless their comrades won and that they got, put out, they did the same thing essentially Jesus did. It's crazy.
Trembling Thomas is cracking me up. So weird to call out Christians without understanding Christianity. Again, that doesn't apply. We definitely understand it.
Right. Not only did we
It's like you know that it's
understand
true,
it.
you just hate that it's true. That also does not make any
Yeah,
freaking sense.
I don't hate that it's not true. I hate that I spent 33 years of my life confused. That does bother me. In fact, if people wonder why I do this, and then I'd be interested in why you do this. I do this because one,
This like the stream?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
the live stream. I do the live stream because I didn't have anyone that challenged my beliefs when I was, doing like dedicating my entire life to it. And it took me a long time. I was even reading a Christian apologetic book trying to explain away things because I wanted to continue to believe. Um, when I broke away and nobody challenged, no, there was no YouTube live like this for me to watch and say, well, wait a minute, that is a little strange, right? Like, why do I believe that? That's why I do it. I wish someone would have done this for me, so I'm doing it for folks out there watching. Why do you do this?
Uh because you told me to. Which is funny because like I'm your wife and you're supposed to tell me what to do. You got me convinced that it would be more fun than scary, and I think that that's true. I like to watch other people answer these questions. I like to hear what people the thought process, the line of questioning that makes you, if you're honest with the questions, examine what you truly believe. And that's why I want to have conversations with other people, because I want to keep examining what I think I believe and not just decide now I know for sure and that's it. Like I don't want it to stop. I want to keep having discourse and questions and questioning myself and questioning others. And I just think it's very interesting. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus, I think another thing that's really weird right now in like the in the world is like if you can convince yourself or just believe something because a book tells you or you were raised that way and you believe it, then you're super open to getting gaslit by anything else. So like if politics tell you something, I feel like you're more apt to believe that it's true because you've already just going along with like some sort of weird religious concept that's maybe not true. Now, maybe it is. Continue with the chat. We appreciate the chats coming in, and if
Yeah,
any
we wish
Christian wants
someone
to
would
pop
come up and
on,
chat with us though.
yeah. Either way,
Like
you just if you use the link, I think it's also like linked in our more. You can click it. Otherwise, if you type that
type
in,
that in.
don't need to be on camera. You can choose camera or no camera. Obviously, we just need to have audio, and then we can just, tell us why we should believe, or tell the viewers. There's quite a few viewers on here. It would be a good thing. I remember when I was a Christian, I would love to be able to share why people should
Believe what I
believe in
believe.
Jesus
Or
and go to
believe
heaven.
in
Yeah.
whatever makes the most sense to them. Honestly, I didn't want necessarily everyone to think exactly what I thought, even if I thought, I was on the best path. But as long as I could help you believe in something,
Hmm.
I thought that was also good.
So I just thought of something random.
Okay.
So you know the saying, like, if you don't believe in something, then you'll fall for anything.
You don't believe in something?
Yeah, then you'll fall for anything.
Okay.
But what's weird about that is if you believe in the wrong thing, if your something is wrong and you only believe it because you were taught it or you were told to believe it, then you'll technically fall for anything, I think, more than if you just have an open mind. Like if you have an
Agreed.
open skeptical mind where you're just like, I don't believe in, Vishna because I'm just not convinced. But I'm willing to look into it. I feel like you'll fall for things less than if you're just like, oh, that's how I was raised, so I'm gonna believe it.
Right. Well, you've always had that mindset. You've never questioned that mindset. You don't like anyone else questioning that mindset. That just, I don't think that that's a very empowering, healthy, fulfilling way to live, but it's a very safe place to be in your little bubble. Um, and to be fair, I have my own bubbles in other ways that I should probably challenge more, not faith related,
Hmm,
but um,
that's healthy. That's
yeah,
super healthy.
putting yourself out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
is one of the only ways to learn and grow, I think. Sorry,
No, that's great. It looks like we have
who
a
is it?
guest in the box. Let me get my mouse up here. Cool. Go ahead and bring on Rocky, I think.
Hello.
Rocky. Oh, hey, hi there. Are you 18?
I
Over the age
am.
of 18?
Yes,
Awesome, awesome. And do you believe in the Christian God?
I do. I guess specifically, I mean, you could ask Christians and you'll kind of get maybe different answers. I would
Mhm.
hope when anyone proclaims that they're Christian, they back it up with the Bible, and that's what I try my best to do.
Sure. And did
Just
you
like
want us to call you
anyone's.
Rocky?
Oh yeah, that's fine
Okay.
Cool.
for sure.
Very
I
cool.
know you guys were just talking about even as I entered in the URL and then it kind of turned off what you guys were discussing. Can you kind of recap again the questions that you guys were wondering?
Yeah. I mean, the most recent thing that we were chatting about was about the idea of being able to question what you believe no matter what that is, whether it be us
Yeah.
currently in our state of non-belief or someone who believes in the Hindu god or whatever,
Yeah.
or the idea that being able to question constantly and try to push yourself out of your comfort zone is a little bit healthier, even
Yeah.
if it's not always easy or comfortable.
For sure. I know as far as like my life goes, I was grown up in the church. Um and at a certain point you reach a point of like um autonomy, and even for yourself, like there's beliefs where you're saved just through your baptismal, like getting
Hmm.
dipped into the water, but it's like even then that doesn't necessarily like what you're baptized, but what matters is like what's really in your heart and what your belief, like they say put your faith in Christ. Like I grew up in the church hearing all these things, but not really. It was like head knowledge. All it was head knowledge. It never really
Okay.
reached, I guess, my heart in an impact. So it's like in my life growing up, I was more so living in the world by the ways in which I wanted to go, even though I was taught these principles and values and morals based off of what God, the creator, is said to follow, right? So here's what this claim of there is a God, he did create you in your mother's womb. He knew you. He knew, he's like all knowing. He knew the plans he had for you. However, he gave me the freedom of will. And I see that as like that. That's actually like true love. Just like if you were to love another, you wouldn't like hold on to them, dictate what they're going to do or not do. It's just like you give them the free will to choose what they want to choose, um, whether they stay with you or leave you. But basically, my whole life growing up, going my own way, living in a way they say like for the world, however I want, finding my value and worth in, men, for example, or going to substances to fill this thing within me that I just felt like, I'm going through all means of filling this emptiness within inside me, which I found now that it's like this unseen thing of that I see as like the key that only the creator was made to fill. It's like we're all, I believe we're all worshipers, and you're going to worship something, whether it's the self or, um, or worship others, worship some sort of thing that makes sense to you. You're like, it's like people are trying to make sense of what is true, what is real, what is the meaning of life. It opens up all these questions, right? I don't know if I'm going all over the place, but
No,
No.
can I repeat back just to make sure I'm understanding?
yeah.
So so first of all, I think you have some excellent points. So you said,
Mhm.
it's not, you did you did church. You were raised in church. You had like
Mhm.
the head knowledge and like the biblical background, which you do believe is very important. I definitely understand, agree with that.
Yeah.
So that is important. But where it really like switched is when you had like a like you really like became like you felt it, you had a like kind of a personal
Ex-
relationship type of
yeah, like
thing,
an
an
experience that
experience.
happened. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And then you are always searching for something to fill like kind of a hole or something that was you felt like was missing, and
Mhm.
it wasn't filled until you experienced this relationship, and then now that you have that relationship, that hole is filled and you feel much better now than you did like before, essentially. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And I think there's just a lot of things, even now as I'm going through life, I don't believe I'll have all the answers, but I like claim, but I know the one who does. And in a way that gives me a sense of peace and serenity as I walk this life of, just walking in the purpose that whatever God has for me, and not even necessarily my purpose. It's like I think as Christians, our first purpose is to just live for God with all our heart. And He is the one that, I mean, I think the term worship can like be alarming to the people. It's like, what do you mean worship? But I think there's this like genuine devotion of like love just for God, the creator who created me, who just as much loves me, if anything more. Like they say, God is love. Like all creation that has come into fruition is because of God's love. But there's also, the angels and the demons that, adds to the story when you read the text. And there's a bigger thing going on. So when we come back to the world and you hear that the world is run by Satan, something that we can't see, that is divine, and there is like a spiritual realm. And even people that maybe don't believe in God, but they believe in a spiritual realm, people see things, people experience things that they don't can make sense of, or try to make sense of. And I believe those things, like when people try to talk, let's just say to the dead, they're trying to find answers. Their past ones have died, and it says in the Bible not to come into contact, like to reach the dead, like let the dead rest. And if you are coming to contact with things, it's not necessarily the dead, that like people that you may have known and have died, but it's actually demonic. Not oh my gosh, I can't talk.
No, you're good. You're
Demonic
doing good.
yeah,
Yeah,
demonic entities. So
yeah.
even like, and I haven't experienced demonic entities, or I've experienced, what people may say goes through the spiritual realm, but I have friends who have. And anyways, this is like the veil, like going back to a question I think you were talking about before I was on,
Yeah.
of like what are you believing and why and who's to say, like trying to keep an open mind on
Yes.
things,
Yep.
and
Yep.
explore. It's like, and if you call this like the one truth, this is the only truth. Truth being like, if Jesus's claim and God's claim, three in one. We won't go into that because I feel like that is very depth for me. It's too in depth for me to break down.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't
But
have to hit all of these points at once.
oh
We can
yeah,
start.
Yeah, we can start
Yeah.
depending on how much time you have, we can start. I think you bring up some really, really good points, but yeah, if you have anything you wanted to kind of.
Um, well, there's stuff that I actually want you to start because I feel like I'm gonna jump to a point that maybe I think.
Well, yeah, I guess I'd start by asking like a question. And again, you're talking with two people. Now, I was a Christian for a very long time. I was completely sold out on Jesus. I mean, I
hmm.
almost became a youth pastor. I
Oh
probably
wow,
would have been really
okay.
good at it. But took the business route because my friends were going to a different college, and I wanted to
Hmm.
stick with the friends. But what would you say to somebody who went through what sounds like a very similar experience? So like
Okay, yeah.
I raised fundamentalist Christian. I also got the biblical knowledge. In fact, when people talk to me about things about the Bible, I tend to know a lot about the Bible because I just was in it constantly. and
Yeah.
and, and I remember when I was in, I think it was seventh or eighth grade is when I was baptized, because we were baptized as Protestants later. Did you
Hmm.
say you're Protestant or Catholic or?
So I would consider myself
Yeah.
non-denomination, but
Okay,
yeah,
cool. That's what I was too. Non-denominational. Yep, yep.
yeah, okay,
Technically, I went to an evangelical free church
okay.
growing up, but then once I left home and went to college, then I was non-denominational from that point forward.
Hmm.
Probably for the same reasons you were, right? It's like you know what? Every denomination has their little niche, but
Yeah,
I want the Bible. I want the
yeah,
real Word of God, not like this flavor and that flavor.
yeah,
I want the truth, right? Yeah.
for sure.
So I remember though when it was seventh or eighth grade, and as part of our baptism, I remember we had a really good like worksheet thing that we had to do, and it was really questioning like
Hmm.
okay, but do you have a relationship? Like, do you? And I just remember
Yeah.
like just breaking down in my bed,
Hmm.
just like yeah, like yes, like this is it. I want to do this as a thing because in my household it was very serious. It wasn't like a you had to do it, but it's like if you do it, it
Yeah.
needs to mean something, which is why I waited, until I really felt like I was there. So, what was interesting to me about what you said there was you had mentioned that you felt like you were missing something,
Yeah.
and then Jesus filled that hole. I felt at that moment that that hole for me was filled. So, like
Hmm.
in that seventh or eighth grade moment where I was like, no, this is it. And that's when I really like took the turn from
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm going to church because the family goes to church and I have
Mm.
perfect attendance.
Got
Which
your
I
gold
did
star.
every single year. I never missed. I don't even think, and this might be an actual miracle. I don't remember ever missing a church. So either I went sick or I didn't get sick. I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
But but the thing was that's interesting is I felt like God did fill that hole. Now I don't feel a hole now after leaving. Now, I did
Okay.
when I first
Yeah.
left, and it was
Hmm.
hard. It was
Yeah.
not leaving the faith. I recommend it, but it is tough. It's not something that people should take lightly.
Well, and
Yeah.
recommend is a hard word to say here
Right.
because
Good
like
point.
that's not the point of why we're here.
Right. 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 For
Hmm.
People
me,
do, people don't, people are on
yeah.
spectrums of belief.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's not
Right or
meaningful to
wrong. Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
It did happen for us for different reasons. But to your point, when you do truly believe something, and I know a lot of people will say, well, if you had faith and now you don't, then you never really had a true faith. And I don't think that that's true, and I don't think that
It's
that's fair.
yeah. It's not fair.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes you learn things and you question and I think what comes down to it is how do you know that what you believe is true? And I think
Hmm.
that would be maybe my first question to move the conversation
Hmm.
forward for you, Rocky, is like,
Yeah.
what convinces you this is true? How do you find it testable? How do you find it um
Hmm.
like real and valid and more than just this is what they told me to do and it feels good when I do it?
Yeah, I think it brings me back like to the central gospel of what what Christ died for. Um and recognizing, like, I heard that, the claim I'm a sinner my whole life, and as a child, trying to wrap your mind around that, if and you as a child want to be, seen as good, seen
Sure.
as like I'm doing good things, I am a good person. Um and I've heard of like the breakdown of God's word my whole life, and it's like trying to justify why I'm good. And there's this level of like trying to prove the self,
Hmm.
even though and this is what I don't think I understood the gospel fully growing up, even though I was told things and trying to understand it and make sense in my brain, and comprehend, and told I was to love God, but I don't think I ever loved God with my whole heart because I was more so living for myself and trying to justify why I'm good, what I'm doing, and follow things to a T that you can never like do.
Right.
And and then it's like the gospel came alive in, I would say, I don't know if these are the best words to describe it, like came alive in my heart in terms of like it hit home when I realized the significance of what Jesus died for. And it's like trying to understand like what is sin, and if this claim that sin separates us from God, and that the whole point of like the tempt like back to the garden of Adam and Eve, and that there's this tree of knowledge of good and evil, and this tempter trying to deceive and distort the truth of the word of God. And from that point, once they gave in to, they had the free will to choose still, and they made that choice to, instead of believing and trusting what God has said to keep them from that, which I mean, that can go into its own discussion.
Yeah.
But
No, no, that's good. That's good.
yeah, and that's allowing sin to enter the earth. And
But I would say what would you say
yeah.
though to somebody who like me, I had a hole,
Yeah.
my hole was filled.
Mhm.
I left and I had to figure it out, right? It's like, whoa, this was my whole identity. God,
Mhm.
Jesus was the person I talked to when things were tough. Like if things
Yeah.
got tough, I went to Jesus. Now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Now what do I
I
have?
don't believe in Jesus anymore. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Literally, what do I do? And
Yeah.
then what happened was well, that's a long story, but I will say what ended up in the
I'm
long
curious.
run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it was really tough. Because
Oh
if
yeah.
you're used to like, here I've got a problem, I'm going to Jesus, and all of a sudden then it's like the next day I see something and it's like, okay, that's how I know that Jesus is still with me because of this sign that I experienced or this thing that I saw or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like things eventually worked out because I'm still alive. And you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe I was supposed to learn from that. And then I would figure out in what I
Mhm.
believe now was my mind, I would figure
Mhm.
out what I was supposed to learn from that experience, or I gave that experience something I
Some kind
could
of
learn.
meaning.
Yeah. Then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why that happened, is because I needed to learn that thing. Well, then what
Yeah.
happened was as I started to realize that that's what I was doing, then
Mhm.
I realized, well, actually that's pretty amazing. Like, okay, I can still learn from things. It doesn't mean that
I
like if
can still
something bad
think, why did that
happens,
happen? What can I get from this? How can I?
right?
Yeah.
And then what
But it
happened
doesn't have to be
was,
because of
yeah, and then
something.
everything that I did from
Yeah.
now, and now why I don't have a hole is because now I have a different focus, right? So my focus on what gives me meaning is my wife, are my
Mhm.
kids, is my
Mhm.
family, are my friends. I have like tremendous friends, and
Yeah.
also just helping people. Like it
Absolutely.
genuinely feels good to just help people and be out there in the world doing good things. And
Yeah.
that's my meaning. Now, it's different, I think, probably for everybody. Once you no longer have like a deity that is supposed to give you meaning through their book. Because
Yeah.
if you were from a different religion, right, you might have a
Mhm.
different set of like, I don't like, rules isn't the right word, but like
Yeah,
purposes,
Yeah.
purpose,
Mhm.
maybe guidance.
guidance, or
I
like,
don't like the idea of rules because
yeah,
even
not
as a
rules,
believer,
yeah.
it didn't feel like rules and it shouldn't have felt like rules because then it's like I'm doing
Yeah.
this because I
Oh,
have to, not
yeah.
because I am called to do it
Yeah. But
or
what would you say to
Absolutely.
that? Like if you had a hole, got filled, left, had to get fulfilled again, and I'm fulfilled now as I was then. I like I
Yeah.
couldn't go back because I don't personally believe. I mean, I could. I guess if Jesus like came down or something and
Hmm.
like physically, like all of a sudden, I'd be like, oh crap, yeah, I was wrong. Like I totally believe and like we're going back. But
Hmm.
like what would you say to
Hmm.
that though?
I would say, I mean, I want to answer this question, but even as you're going through that or your explanation, there's something that was coming up for me, and it was like following the law, the rules or the laws.
Mhm.
Like, when you read the Old Testament, and it was like the book from Genesis to Revelation is still centered around Jesus. And I didn't realize until I started reading, but it's like although Jesus didn't come until, the Gospels, but it's this like the knowledge of law like had to be given to man to have this like understanding of there is a good and evil, there is a right and wrong, and a declaration that there is a way, like the fulfillment that you get from your family and your wife and like even your kids, it's a beautiful thing. And even for your friends, and being able to like you find the purpose in even serving, like even those things that I would say God agrees, like, and when you do so, of giving of yourself, which Jesus gave a great example of his life, to like the giving literally of himself, like a self-sacrifice. um it's like his whole ministry and his whole life was for the giving of humanity, and to love one another and to give of self, because it's like the moment that we've turned selfish, it's like we step out of God's design, which again, we're imperfect, but it's like God, when you live for the Lord, and it's like he teaches you along the way, and he gives that grace, like back to the gospel, that grace that he gives people. It's like there's no perfectness that you couldn't live and keep my commandments as much as you tried. It's like, so I'm going to come down and sacrifice for you the debt that you couldn't pay. I'm gonna pay it for you. You,
So
you
So if there's like, okay, so there are obviously other religions that are
hmm.
also what I would consider like love centric religions, right? So you've got like Confucianism. There's one called like Hani that's like actually kind of cool. I started kind of looking into it a little bit just out of curiosity. There's
Yeah.
like Buddhism, obviously. These are all religions that started. I'm not sure about Hani when it started, but like there's other ones that, Confucianism, Buddhism,
Yeah.
um, Zoroastrianism, that all came well before, Jesus, and some of those like before even the Yahwistic, cult. But
Hmm.
like, are you saying that those religions
Hmm.
are essentially attributed towards the Bible God? Like people were confused, or like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how do you
Oh,
what
you're
do you what do you
fine.
think about like those other religions, especially because a lot of those came way before Jesus, and even
Yeah.
Hillel, who was a Jewish rabbi, gave the golden rule like 100 years before Jesus did, like in
Hmm.
writing, because he could actually write, unlike Jesus. But go ahead.
Yeah. I would say as far as like the other religions, like even through the whole Testament, as it explains, like there are people claiming to believe in other gods and exalt other gods, or placing things as idols to worship. And here Jesus comes throughout time trying to um basically reveal himself through the people, and just to it's revealing of the self. That doesn't mean like, I know the people, the Israelites, were to be God's chosen people, but it was only to set the example, not that like these are my chosen people and I only love them, but it was like to be like live to what I'm calling you to be, to just set the example. And even then, God shows up to reveal like how supreme this God is versus all the other gods or all the black magic that claims to have power, a sense of power.
You know your Bible because there were other gods in the old in the Old Testament.
Hmm.
That's good. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, are we saying that all of those other religions were just wrong and misguided?
Well, I think in one of the Ten Commandments, it's like you may not. Uh, well, I know I'm still learning a lot. So the Ten Commandments, it's like
Hopefully, we're
basically,
always all learning.
Yeah,
right?
that's
To be
good.
fair.
No,
Absolutely. I
that's
don't think the Bible's so. I think the Bible is so many layers. Like as the more I read, the more I realize I don't like. The more I don't know. In a way, it's not that I don't. I don't know if that makes sense.
no, it makes total sense, and that's the right
Yeah.
way to look at I think anything,
Anything.
because nobody
Yeah.
can know. Like if I were to tell you, you know what, you're wrong and I'm right because I know everything
Yeah.
about, like, that would be totally
I mean, that as a
stupid.
That's
statement in
right.
general is just asinine,
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
be fair. So, no need to
Yeah.
qualify or apologize for that. But
Hmm.
I think maybe the bigger point here is what makes your personal experience with your faith and your relationship with Jesus any more real or true than any other individual in any other faith.
Who has the same personal
and
experience with
and
their
how
God?
do you disprove them and how do they disprove you?
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the conundrum that started breaking my eggshell first.
Yeah. Oh,
It's like
absolutely.
everyone believes in this thing. I mean, not every single person, but so many people
Hmm.
believe in their particular religion, their particular God, their particular version,
Yeah.
and it's their entire world and it's what they live for. And are they all wrong? Is
Hmm.
60% of them wrong? Are some of them essentially the same thing but just a different,
Right, like what is
like,
that person with an personal experience with Allah,
any
and
Yeah.
they're
different,
willing to
right?
die for Allah because they
Yeah.
have a personal relationship, different
Yeah.
than a Christian who has a personal relationship with Jesus but isn't willing to die for Jesus. Or maybe they are,
I
but like what's
mean,
the like what?
that
Yeah.
also has happened. So,
Right, right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
good
think
point.
it has happened, but I think when you read God's truth, and I think this is where in the church, as far as Christianity, it's very, and you see this big spectrum of like, if they're not preaching the Bible, it's like it can get pretty funky in terms of like, well,
Mm.
if one were to die for Jesus, it's like God doesn't call us to take life.
Mhm.
Like
mhm.
that's God's authority,
Yeah,
and that's
I do think that that's a good point.
yeah, and so in Allah, I feel like they say they believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. However, they also add a book. Their book, their doctrine looks to the Bible that they say they believe, but like their doctrine is claiming like that Bible is now corrupt. Listen to our Bible that came around like 500 years later after the Bible. Um,
So are you saying that it's personal relationship, but we can establish that like a person can have a personal relationship with Allah that feels the same
mhm.
as a Christian's personal relationship with Jesus. And I had a
Yeah.
Hindu friend in college who had
Hmm.
a personal relationship with Vishnu,
Yeah.
and that person like was like, dude, you're crazy. Like they were
Hmm.
bent on telling me about how the real relationship is with their particular God. It's not necessarily a person has a relationship with their God that necessarily is the
Yeah.
definitive. It's more the book, the text, God's word.
Yeah.
The Bible stands apart from the other texts.
I think the main difference is when you look at all the other religions and doctrines, like what sets Christianity apart, it's not like what we can do to earn God's favor and love. It was like Jesus himself sacrificed for himself, and it's like on the cross he said it is finished. Like that's it. There's
Well,
no
that depends which
Which
book you're reading.
gospel, right? It's
What
it's
is last
why
one
have
and
for?
you forsaken me?
yeah.
It is finished. There's one other
Yeah.
version.
Well, the point of that is saying, like, I have done the work. There's no more you need to do to add. And that's like, it's like central of the gospel. Anytime you add, they call it legalism. like the add the works, like you need to work your way to heaven. It's like you just missed the whole point of why Jesus came down and died for you, to give you the, like, give you that gift of grace that you receive
So,
through faith and faith alone, not by works.
not to interrupt you, and
No,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry to
Yeah,
overtalk,
you're fine.
but I would say that the Bible also seems to have two different views on that. There
Okay.
are verses that talk about you are saved because you believe, and there are verses that talk about how you have to become saved through your actions.
Yeah, like
And
faith without works is dead.
Hmm?
so,
James.
yeah,
There you go. it's
this
it's like
guy, I
I would I would say like that faith, that genuine faith that understands um that understanding of grace, and this grace, like I in my walk with God, and this is like I turned to the Lord in 2023 like wholeheartedly, like started like, all right, God, I'm going to live for you wholeheartedly. And that's not to say I'm this perfect person now. It's literally like learning to surrender, and this concept that they say, die to my flesh, um, and live in his ways. And this is where the Holy Spirit comes in, relying on the Holy Spirit to help me through those things when I'm confronted with temptation to like go maybe against what God calls me to do, because there's this thing inside me like calling me to do something that I know is against God's will, whether I understand the depth to why he says it or not. Um, it's sorry, let me go back to
no.
your question. Your question, oh, faith without works is dead. I think when you have genuine faith, naturally those works are produced, but I think it can, when it becomes, I think this is what I see as like religion, it becomes a religion when it's like you're starting to pursue God in a manner of like, what can I do to follow you? Like, I need to earn my way. I need to do all, I need to go to church every weekend. I need to read my Bible. And it becomes this, what they say, legalism that is very hard to uphold because you're carrying the weight yourself when all you needed to do was surrender and allow the gift of God's, like, you already have it all. You have God. And that in itself was the gift. Like, you have God in your heart. You've put your faith in him. He has
So you're saying
finished.
we're almost trying too hard to justify the gift that he already gave us.
Yeah, I would say people try to, basically it's like, I think when you give, when it's like this receiving of that gift, like it was taught to me up through, growing up, but I never understood the concept of like, this is a gift. And it's just like this weight was lifted that I never understood, of like, I was told to live these ways. But I think if I never understood that, like, what Jesus died for was my sins, and it's like these sins that I do, basically the things that I do. I think someone told me like recently, maybe like 6 months ago, like there's three types of sins. Like the things that maybe, like, let's just say you feel called to do something, but you don't do it, and like, oh, I should have done that. Like it was something good that I should have done.
Hmm.
Or the things that you do that is wrong but you end up doing. Or even the things, like they even say, there's a, like, even if you lusted after, or you looked at a woman lustfully in your heart, you already committed adultery. Like this question of like, how sinful are we in nature? Like, I don't think we even comprehend in the ways of which that affects us internally, and maybe affects the things that we do affects the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I believe when you accept Jesus in your heart and you're made aware of like your need for him, is when like the change can just like happen. And it's not just to, so I can change and get better. Like, that is a
Right.
result by doing that.
So why do you think that there are people in the world that have never been a Christian
Yeah.
and they are just the nicest people you'll ever meet? Maybe we don't
Oh
speak
yeah.
their same language, right? They're in another country because they didn't even hear about God or
Yeah.
Jesus before, right? But they are just like, maybe they adhere to a completely different religion,
Yeah.
super nice, don't sin, as in terms of your definitions that you just gave. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about those people?
I think, like, growing up, when I didn't put my faith fully in Christ, I wouldn't say I knew of God, but I didn't live for him. I myself, would like to think I was still like a good person, right? And not to say I'm not a good person. I think there's good and bad in all of us.
Sure. I
And
mean, yeah, it would be silly to say otherwise, to be honest.
yeah, so as far as like I have a friend that is agnostic, sweetest girl. I would even say nicer than me. Like in some ways she's so much more selfless than I am that I need God to help me on. Like help me work in things in me that like need help. I need his help in certain ways. So I I've heard this thing, and I mean it's hard for me to like fathom because this concept of like there'll be good people in hell, like that's a big statement to that to like
And
swallow
wouldn't
that
it be
concept.
terrible to think if you were like in heaven and like your
Yeah,
best friend or like a
yeah,
Well,
family
this girl that you just
member,
talked about, if she's agnostic and
yeah,
she's a
and
great
yeah,
she's in
person,
hell,
but because
absolutely.
she,
are you going to be happy? Because there's not supposed to be any tears in heaven. But if I imagine that, like my grandpa, and I struggled with this because when I was a Christian, like my grandpa was like awesome, always helping
Yeah,
everybody. He volunteered at the senior center and he was a grandpa, like he was an old guy, but he was helping the
yeah,
other old people. And he was always joking. He was trying to make everybody happy. And
yeah,
he was not a Christian. He was probably the only family member I knew that wasn't.
yeah,
And I was just like I think now I was like, how could I possibly be in heaven and be like, dude, this is so cool, man? And then thinking of my
yeah,
grandpa burning for eternity because for 65 years he was unconvinced that Jesus was real. But because of that, even though he was the nicest person in the world, God is going to light him on fire perpetually for all eternity because
hmm,
he committed the unforgivable sin of not believing in Jesus to go to heaven. What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
It's the whole concept. It is very hard for me to like conceptualize, and I think like as God calls us as believers to proclaim the truth. So you have those what people call like Bible thumpers and trying to be out in the street and proclaiming
trying to bring people in, save them.
yeah, it's trying to bring people into what they say is the absolute truth. Sorry, my dog.
Oh no,
No,
you're cool. We
we
like
love
dogs.
dogs.
Okay, me too.
Well, she loves dogs more than I do, but
I
dogs
was
are
about to
okay.
say I need to know your dogs too, but that's for
Yeah.
a later.
It's
Yeah,
cool. It's cool.
we have
um
David Jr. behind our cue.
yeah, I would say it's a hard conversation for sure. And like I have friends that I'm I just see myself as like a messenger, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like God's the one to meet people where they're at, but also it's like God gives us the free will on this earth to either choose him, and it's oh yeah, that's a hard conversation.
I do want to go back to something else though,
Yeah.
because we were talking about like you had mentioned that like okay, I
Well,
I can be a Christian, have yeah,
sorry, I was trying to. There was something I wanted to comment on when
Yeah.
Rocky was talking about that. I think I lost it.
if you think about it,
If
sorry,
I think
my
about
bad.
it, I'll go back.
But like if I've got a personal relationship with Jesus and I know that it's true because of the text and because the Bible is better than, or I'm just going to say better than because it's easy terms. We don't need to get like freaking philosophical terms. It's better than the Quran in terms of its like content, etc. And it's better than the Baha'i deed. I probably butchered that one of like
I don't know what
the
you were
the
going for
Hindu.
there.
I heard it
Okay.
a long time ago. But there's all these different texts and the
Mhm.
Bible's the one that's the right one. So everyone's had their own personal experience that they've all felt. And some people have seen just as many like visions of their God as Christians have seen visions of their God. And
Mhm.
everyone's had near death experiences. And of course, they see their God when they have a personal
Or people of
near
each
death.
like faith have.
Exactly. So I think at this point, we
Mhm.
can kind of set that like the personal experiences make sense, right? But
Yeah.
they kind of got to get set to the side because everybody has them in all of the different faiths, but what you're saying is the Bible, and you're saying that like Jesus was there. But I would say that I don't believe that Jesus actually fulfilled a single Old Testament prophecy. Like every single
Mm.
prophecy in the Old Testament that Christians claim Jesus fulfilled, I just don't see that any of them did he
Yeah.
actually fulfill. Are there any of those prophecies or like that I mean, I would be happy with just literally one, if there's like one or two, like I'm cool.
Okay.
I've heard that there's like hundreds, but if
Hmm.
you can give me like one or two that are actually like believable or like
I
plausible,
think.
like
Oh my gosh, this is where I'm starting to get into what's it called? Um, basically the study of the like what it starts with the A. Do you guys know?
apologetics.
Apologetics?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, yeah.
um, but I'm just I just briefly like opened that door, and
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say I think it's Isaiah 58.
Oh,
53.
Is it
58 is also
53?
one, I think. 53 is
53
definitely
is the
one.
suffering servant. Is that the
Yeah.
one that you're talking about?
I let's do
Let-
both. I don't know. Look it up.
Okay. Okay. I
I
don't
don't
I
know.
don't think the one, I could be wrong. Hold on, I gotta get out my Bible here. Hold on.
Did you want to
Okay.
pull it up on there and I can look here?
Well, I will pull it up there, but first I'm old school, guys. I'm like,
No, me too. I love it.
so okay, but
Well, yeah,
I
we
will
can
pull it
pull
up on the screen. First
that
of
way we
all,
can all read it.
let me look at 58 and make sure I'm not wrong.
'Cause I think there's one in 58 as well.
Okay, let me check here. Hold on. 58. Don't think 50.
Maybe not.
No, I don't think so. Let-
Uh,
I mean, let's see here. Do you have your Bible, or do you have your Bible with you by chance? Here, let me pull it up let me pull up 58 on the screen. Hold on.
yeah, we'll just look at it and see. Maybe we
Yeah,
do mean
let's
53.
Isaiah 58. Boop, because I don't want to
Here, I'll hold
steer you wrong. Oh, it's a beast.
this.
Okay, here, let's see here. Let me share my screen real quick.
I don't think I see one. I think you were correct.
Sharing. Oh wait, actually, I already had it shared. Darn it! Share screen. Here we
You
go.
did. You
Cool.
forgot you did that.
Cool. Here it is. 58. Share. See if it works. Add to stage. Boom! Look at that. Okay, so I'm gonna speed read this real quick. 58, and stop me if you're seeing the thing you're thinking. And then we will try 53. That's usually the one that Christians go to as kind of like the suffering servant one. Um, so 58 is shout out, do not hold back, lift up your voice like a trumpet, announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness. So first of all, Isaiah is the prophet that is prophesying to the Judeans about, if you don't start helping the sick and the widows and the poor, God is going to come and wipe you out like he did the northern tribes of Israel, if I'm remembering correctly, because this is what I think Trito Isaiah or whatever. Anyways, yeah, day after day they seek me. Okay, they delight to me. Okay, we talked about that one. And did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They asked of me of righteous judgments. They want God on their side. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interests on your fast day and oppress all your workers. You fast only to quarrel and fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose, a day of humbling? Is it to bow down like the head of a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast? So far, wait, is this not the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry or bring the homeless poor into your house? Again, it's like, bringing, that was the whole thing with Isaiah. He was saying, and actually, I love this about Isaiah. I freaking love Isaiah's message, which is basically, yeah, you guys have been worshiping the law, and all of Isaiah says this. You've been following the law, but you haven't been following like the love, essentially. So it is a very like Jesus type message written like hundreds of years before Jesus, which is like, don't just like follow the law, like we were talking about like the
Right.
rules, right? Ezekiel is also like this. I think
Don't just go through the motions.
yeah, sorry, not Ezekiel, but Jeremiah is also like that, where it's like, don't just follow the law to follow the law, but also like, take care of the hungry, the poor. When you see the naked, cover them. And he's speaking to Israel during this entire time. And do not hide yourselves from your own kin. again, from your own kin, talking about Israel. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, your healing shall spring up quickly, your vindicator shall go before you, the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. You shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted. Also, check chat. If chat knows Isaiah 58 and I'm missing it, stop me if I'm reading too fast. I don't want to miss it. Okay, light shores in darkness, and your gloom will be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places. I'm not watching chat, so if you,
No.
okay, cool, okay. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters will never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall rise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets to live in. And again, this is great, right? And this is what the current, like, if you followed any of like Rabbi Tovia Singer, who I freaking think is amazing, he will say that, like, if Israel does this now, this will bring Israel back, and the actual restoration of Israel will happen. Like the rabbis, rabbinic Judaism believes that if Isaiah is fulfilled, if this happens, that that will be the time of the Lord, essentially. Refrain from tearing the Sabbath, pursuing interest on my holy day. If you call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy day of the Lord honorable, if you honor it, not going in your own ways, serving of your own interest, or pursuing your own affairs, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride upon the heights of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage of your ancestor Jacob. So again, this is clearly talking to Israel. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. So that's Isaiah 58.
Okay.
Now, Isaiah 53 is the one where it talks about.
Yeah, I think I was thinking 53.
53, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting is, if you're like me, I would totally mistake 53 for 58, because a 3 to me looks so much like an 8 that in my brain.
Yeah.
Even
I
in
think
my
my brain
thoughts,
looks
yeah.
like that too.
I totally see a 3 and an 8 blend together. But it's
Yeah.
also because I think I've got bad eyesight, and I just haven't been to the eye doctor in a long time, and I really need to go. But okay, so let's pop over to Isaiah 53. But before we go to Isaiah 53, and this is why I wanted to pop out my Bible
Well,
here.
you don't have it marked with your prophecy tab, so for the first thing,
Could be my other
do
Bible.
better.
Hold on, buddy.
What are you looking for?
Hold on. Okay. Let me take it, because I think you would agree that everything has to be taken in context, right? So, like, for example, we actually, let's read 53 first, and then let's go to the context. Okay, Isaiah 53. Boom. Okay. Now, we just read 58, which I think was really good because it gave us part of the context, right? Because this is all part of one block. Isaiah is talking to the nation of Israel and saying, if you don't feed the poor, the hungry, the weak, you are going to get, wrecked, right? Okay.
Okay. You can tell we have teenage children. Yeah. The things that sometimes accidentally come out of our mouth.
And keep in mind, I was a former Sunday school teacher and should have been a youth pastor, so I also, am just fun. When I get into Bible study. Okay, here we go.
All those gifts.
Okay. Okay, it says, who has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Okay, remember that. Who has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Okay. For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him. Okay, I'm talking about, you would think, a person in just reading this chapter. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering. Matthew should be ringing bells right now. And acquainted with infirmity. And as one from whom others hide their faces. He was despised, and we held him of no account. Okay, so this is definitely Matthew, right? Surely he has borne our iniquities, or Matthew's iniquities, but this is infirmities, same thing. And carried,
now you're just like projecting.
And carried our diseases, yet we account him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Dang it, that was the iniquities part. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole, and by his bruises we are healed. Or in some versions, New International, by his stripes ye were healed, right?
Mhm.
And we like sheep have gone astray. We have all turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all, the sins of us all.
Mhm.
I am so glad we read 58. This is going to be great.
Yeah, that's actually I've never ever heard 58 and then gone back.
Yeah, it's
It's very
actually, you
interesting
might have
Yeah.
because
spoiler alerted yourself a little on this, and that's okay. Okay. He he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Okay, now I
Mhm.
want the viewers to be thinking of two things because we read 58 first. I want you to think about what you know about the nation of Israel, and I want you to think about what you know about Jesus, right? Because
Mhm.
Jesus, to Rocky's point, and I'm glad you brought up Isaiah 53. It's probably the most solid Jesus prophecy. If there is a Jesus prophecy that holds, this would be the most solid one. I think. Um, but Jesus also didn't talk, right? So he got led before the leaders, and he didn't talk according to the texts that were written, hundreds of years after this was written. Okay,
Mhm.
but also think about the nation of Israel around 600 BC. Okay. By a
Mhm.
perversion of justice, he was taken away. Who could have imagined his future? For he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people. They made his grave with the wicked and his tomb with the rich. Although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth, which I will show you where Jesus lied in the New Testament for this,
if we get there.
if we get there. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him with affliction. When you make his life an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring, which we can assume are like followers of Jesus because he didn't have any children of his own, and shall
Mhm.
prolong his days. Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper. Out of his anguish he shall see. He shall find satisfaction through his knowledge. The righteous one, my servant, okay, my servant. In this case, we're projecting Jesus, okay?
Mhm.
My servant shall make many righteous. He shall bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out himself to death and was numbered with transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and he made intercession for the transgressors. Transgressors.
Mhm.
Okay, so let you talk to that, and if there's any parts of that you want to bring up, but like, what are your thoughts on Isaiah 53?
I mean, in my mind, I'm like, this
That's
is,
JC. This is my boy.
yeah. And even in the grave, like, or
Mhm.
the tombstone,
The tomb part,
like,
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
like, the rich gave the tomb to Jesus even to be in.
Hmm. Yep, right there. And
Yeah.
what's interesting too, what's really interesting about that, okay, I'm going to talk meta for just a second. So,
Okay.
so again, the book of Mark and Matthew and Luke and John, right, were even by like Christian scholars, like non-denominational, Christian scholars, they agree that it
Okay.
was written like after Jesus, right? Jesus spoke Aramaic, they were written in Greek, and obviously came later,
Yeah.
um, which is fine. If you're reading like the Old Testament and you're tying things together, you're not going to write in that he was put in a mass grave, right? You're going to write in like this tomb, narrative, and then later, like John has to add, Joseph of Arimathea because he happened to also be
Mhm.
rich. So they keep tacking on, like as you go in progression of the Gospels, they keep tacking on more and more of these details to make it line
Mhm.
up, which is totally cool. Let's pretend like they didn't do that though.
Okay.
Let's take as a fact that they didn't just write a story, because Paul, who wrote way before the Gospels, didn't talk about any of this. But
Mhm.
let's say that the Gospel writers were really writing from the Word of God,
Okay.
and Jesus really was buried in a tomb, unlike all the other crucifixions of the time where they were put in mass graves.
Mhm.
Let's pretend like, and this was the one off where one of these crucified, defectors were put in an actual tomb.
Mhm.
That's pretty solid. Okay, now I'm
Mhm.
going to bust out my old school Bible here. Hold on,
Okay.
because because I've got notes. I've got notes from the old days here. Okay, so let's go to Isaiah 41. Oops, let me get this. Oh, okay. Isaiah 41. Those at home following along with your Bible, we are going to we are going to go to 41 verse 8. I'll read it in context, by the way. And it's the same story as Isaiah 58, right? And 53, where Isaiah is addressing the nation of Israel saying, listen, you got to take care of your people or God's going to come and ship you out. You're getting exiled to Babylon, folks. Okay, so it says, each one helps the other, saying to one another, take courage. The artisan encourages the goldsmith, and the one who smooths with the hammer encourages the one who strikes the anvil, saying it's good, and they fasten it with nails so it cannot be moved. But you, Israel, my servant. So when it talks about like the servant in 53, it's using the same exact language, the same exact Hebrew. You, Israel, are the servant. Okay.
Jacob, who I have chosen.
Right. You have taken from the earth, blah, blah, blah. You are my servant. I have chosen you, not to cast you off, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm with you. I'll comfort you. Speaking to Israel like it's his.
And there's the hand, though. You talked about, I will uphold you with my victorious right hand.
Well, yeah, bear my arm. Again, we talked about the bearing the arm, who I'm going to bear the arm to. Again, he's just talking to Israel, just like he was talking the entire. I would really encourage you. You can start at like chapter 38, I think, is where this next section starts, from like 38 to the end, where it's all about Isaiah addressing Israel, his servant. And all of this is he's talking to Israel. So now let's go to 42. Oh boy. Isaiah 42. Also, I highly encourage you to just go on YouTube and literally, and anybody who's watching, please do this. Just type in Rabbi Tovia, Tovia, singer, Isaiah 53. He'll do this way better than me.
He is actually kind of the master.
Yeah. So because he genuinely believes that Christians took his sacred text and defiled it. Like he's
a little bit angry sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of Jews, for sure.
Yeah.
Because they're like, dude, you are reading this
but
way out of context, and they're reading it
like,
in the original Hebrew.
I was, even as a believer, not Jewish, and I'm not trying to like justify his beliefs or whatever, that part of it, but I cannot deny the amount of knowledge that this man has.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes you
book, for sure.
Seeing it coming from different people and different perspectives, and that's its own thing. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, so it says, so Isaiah, again, here we go. You just read the whole thing and it all talks the same thing. Here's my servant who I uphold. He is who I uphold, my chosen, right? So this, you could just say, well, that's Jesus, but wait a minute, darn it, we can't use this one because here is my servant. Again, we're talking about Israel, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. So again, here we're talking about the nation of Israel as an individual, just like in Isaiah 53, but it happens throughout all of Isaiah where God references Israel as an individual, just over and over. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations. Now remember that the way that this was originally written was that Isaiah was speaking to Israel, saying, or actually Judea technically, saying, if you uphold God's commandments, you will be a sacrifice for earth. Not even a sacrifice, but you've been beaten down. If you really want the history, we can. But like, you've been beaten down as a nation, beaten and beaten and beaten. And if you just take care of your sick and stop getting so legalistic about the law, then you will be an example for all the nations, and God will restore you, essentially. And what's great about this, and I hope you think about this. This is why the Jesus narrative occurred, right? Because it's a trope that got put forward in a community, repurposed, essentially. Okay, so it says, he will not cry out or lift up his voice. Again, here we go. Or make it heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not grow faint or be crushed until he has established justice on earth, and the coastlands wait for his teaching. So this again is going back to, if you keep reading, you'll see like he's talking about the nation of Israel during this entire section. But I do definitely want people to read this. Okay, next one is Let's go to oh, here we go. Oh, we just keep going down. Actually, it's like 6 almost. Hold on.
Well, we just, I think,
Oh
talked
yeah,
about
we just
that,
talked about that one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, here we go. Taking again kept you as a covenant
Covenant
to the people.
people.
Yep. Again. Okay. Okay. So then we can go to 44 real quick.
Mhm.
Again, we're just I'm speeding through. Definitely read
Well, yeah, we
this.
can't read the
No, we
entire.
can't read the whole
Oh
thing.
yeah, it's so much.
But definitely do like read. Definitely do
Yeah.
read this.
We would lose all of our viewers.
But I ask you, I would ask you to do this. I would
Absolutely.
ask you to read it with two mentalities. First, read
Okay.
it as this is Jesus. And then
Yeah.
be like, oh, because what happens is when you're really like, this is Jesus starting at like chapter 38, you get to
Mhm.
53 and 53 just goes along with everything else. And you're like, oh, but he wasn't talking about Jesus in those.
Mhm.
But that's why Christians always isolated 53. And it's why I had 53 memorized, but I didn't know the other ones before or after it. Because
Mhm.
it makes sense. But now here, O Jacob, my servant, Israel, whom I have chosen. Again, my servant, O Jacob.
Israel, Jacob, Israel.
Right. So it's, I mean, he's clearly this whole time. Then we go down to 21. Oh boy, 21. All this.
You just passed it, yeah.
Remember these things, O Jacob and Israel, for you are my servant. And by the way, that's in the singular in the Hebrew. That's actually in the singular. For you, not you plural, but you individual, like he, him, are my servant. I formed you, singular. You are my servant. O Israel, do not forget me. Okay, so obviously we're getting the point here.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do every single one.
I know they're so good though. Dang.
Well, I think you're pounding.
40. Okay, go ahead. You
Sorry,
go, and I'll
I
just bring the next one up. But go ahead.
I love my husband, but I always say this, and I'll probably say it on every single live stream. He tells a short story long every freaking time. The point that he's trying to make here is that if you read the entire chapter, you can see that clearly the servant is identified as Israel over and over and over again. So I think the counter apologetic to Isaiah 53 is, why would that verse no longer be about Israel and only be about Jesus? And sometimes the apologetic is that it's a dual prophecy. But I just really struggle with the idea of a dual prophecy, because then why can't you just take anything and make it a triple prophecy or a quadruple prophecy? And like, why can't I just make it be about me instead
Like
of
I've
Jesus?
ridden a donkey.
Right. Which, I mean, that's
not into Jerusalem.
So I think if you read the chapter and you read it honestly, it's very hard to reject the idea that this is about God saving the nation of Israel and not the way that we've cast it to sound like it's about Jesus when you take just a piece out of the pie. Is that a good summary?
Yeah.
Okay. You were about to read just every single instance.
I'm not going to, but there's a lot.
Well,
A
sure.
lot,
And
for
you've already
sure.
recommended that maybe someone who wants to investigate this idea starts in chapter, say, 38 and reads it through 53 and beyond, and you'll see that the message is consistent.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the point where I'm at in life is to, like, in my heart I totally believe in God, but with that also comes to knowing God's word, right? And understanding it and pursuing it and essentially seeking for the absolute truth, not just what I want to believe, not what
I
people tell
appreciate
me,
that.
but know
I
it
really
for
respect
yourself.
that. Sorry. I have to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Thanks,
I
baby.
mean, I've had like these things that people bring up, like what you've brought up and what maybe others brought up in conversations. It's I take it very, like, I'm thankful for it to genuinely write it down on the side for my
And I
own
think
time
that
to
that's an
explore.
honest response, because believer or not believer, if somebody's bringing something up,
Yeah.
you should take it and listen to it and look into it, whether or not you're convinced by it or whether or not it changes your mind about anything.
Absolutely.
Why would you not want to know all of the how do I say this? Well, not even that, but like before that, like, why would you not want to know all of the information so that you can continue to seek and dig? And like, even now, we are reading the Bible all the time. We are reading different scholars breakdowns of the same thing in so many different ways, because the perspective, I think that's what I'm trying to get to. The perspective is important. And you can take this and you can go back and read that and you can agree or disagree.
Hmm.
And that's not going to hurt my feelings or make
Yeah,
me have any different conversation with you if you ever come back. By the way, I've enjoyed
Oh yeah, you've
this
been
thank you.
amazing.
conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
You are kind, you are honest, you are forthcoming,
Likewise.
and I
Thank you.
appreciate your dig into your own, not even just journey with apologetics, but just your own relationship and your journey in general.
Mhm.
So if this has also been meaningful to you and you feel like following us, you could get
Yeah,
notifications when we come live. I would love to talk to you again. I think
Mhm.
that you're honest and wonderful. But
absolutely. Likewise.
yes, thank you.
Mm.
But I do. I think that I might go back and read this whole book after this again too, just
Hmm.
because like I've heard people say so many times, read the whole thing, it means this. But like, what if there was something I missed? What if there's a
Hmm.
part that a dualism does make sense? And I think that that's just, if we're honest enough to ask those questions while we're doing it and honest enough to actually look at it and not just process what people have told us about it. I think
Yeah.
that's like 90% of the battle, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think it's important for everyone to explore it for their own and discover it and really think through it, right? Like not just take someone's word for it for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, you've been awesome. We do have another caller in the guest
Yeah.
box that's been waiting.
No worries.
Rocky, you rock, pun intended. You're awesome. We love you. Definitely come back. And thank you so much. And I hope you have a great
Mhm.
rest of the evening.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for your time.
All
Thank you so
right.
much for
See ya.
coming up.
Thanks. All right. Excellent. We have David
It's
in.
David Jr. from the other
Oh,
night.
that's awesome. Awesome.
I
Okay.
love the name.
Yeah. All right, here we go. And just like last time, I'm going to leave Adele hanging right off the bat. Just kidding. Actually, I don't have to go to the bathroom, surprisingly. Normally, I've.
I was about to be mad at you.
No, you rocked. Okay, here we go. David, you are up. Thank you for joining again. How are you today?
I'm good, guys. How are y'all?
Cute name, by the way.
Love it.
Thank you. It's only acceptable.
When I saw that come into the queue, I just couldn't stop giggling.
I just had to join to keep up the daily David quota. That's all I
We
really
Uh,
came
didn't
for.
have any other Davids today. I was starting to get scared.
See, I told you before you guys head out.
No,
Um,
you're awesome. Yeah. So what have you thought about? Kind of what we talked about last time. Do you have some
I
good
can't remember exactly
new
where we left
points?
off. Do you guys remember
Yeah,
what we were
yeah,
talking about when we ended last time? I know it was towards the end of the stream
uh,
and it was getting late, and here I am again being.
I know
I'm not trying to be weird, but
I'm already sleepy anyways, but I don't remember where we ended
well, and that
exactly.
doesn't necessarily have to matter. We can start wherever we want.
yeah.
Sure. Um,
If there's anything that's been said tonight that like hit you, or something that was on your mind, or wherever you want to start, we'll let you.
well, I was also listening to you guys and Rocky, so I was that's what's going through my brain too. But
Yeah, Rocky was a good caller.
Yeah.
she rocked. Josh, you definitely were set up to be a youth pastor or a certain dad, just to
Ah,
end on that last
I'm
line
telling you.
there.
I know.
Now
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
sales though.
Okay, but David,
Same.
just
Finish,
imagine
Josh.
being married to it.
Oh man.
It's a
Talk
lot.
about
It never
yeah,
stopped.
yeah. Talk about resiliency. Um I uh I was thinking about this. I know when we were chatting we went through a few things. And I went back thinking about it and I was like, and I think what we started with was I was saying the evidence that I was looking for were things outside of the Bible. Um,
Hmm.
and I went back to them and I was like, oh, there may still be something to it, but not that it's something any stronger, but it was something like I was looking back at some of these previous historians, Tacitus being one of them, or Josephus, or Pliny the
Yeah.
Younger. And it's just interesting because it gives it more validity because these people weren't Christians, but they were
Right.
like, I think, some of them are like they'll talk about during the crucifixion. I think it was the eve of the Passover, but like, the sky changes or uh Jesus, superstitious or was doing these kind of superstitious things. But vehemently like, hey, I hate this new Jewish cult thing going on. And so I just found that really fascinating. So that kind of initially piqued my interest and stuff. But I didn't really have a main line to kind of chat about, but
No,
you
actually,
know.
I love that you brought that up.
Mhm.
So, and I've got my Josephus book over there too.
Mhm, mhm.
Now I love, so Josephus is my favorite.
I am gonna pop up.
Oh yeah,
Sorry,
you're good.
one of the kids is
She's
texting.
gonna do
Okay.
the thing.
No, I didn't. The
Gosh.
kids.
Oh yeah, you're good. Okay, so now correct me if I'm wrong. So
Mhm,
Pliny was in his writings was when the emperor was saying, uh Pliny was writing to the emperor saying, "Hey, there's this like Christian movement." They didn't say like Christians weren't like. No, actually, I think he did actually say Christians, but he's like, "There's this movement happening. These Christians. What am I supposed to do with them?" Type of thing. So he kind of like references the Christians.
mhm,
He doesn't really even kind of know who they are, but he knows of them, and he's like, "This is like who are like what are these type of people?" So we know from Pliny that the Christian movement like was there and existed, right? We
mhm,
know
mhm,
from Tacitus the same sort of thing. It's Josephus, I think, that really kind of like talks about Jesus, um, and it's interesting. Now, I actually for on record
mhm.
cannot stand conspiracy theories. I cannot stand them. So I apologize that I'm going to like
Well,
throw something out there that could be considered a
you know
conspiracy
what's
theory.
funny, especially how, things are in America a lot. I feel like it's there's always a new news thing, but people will say, like, conspiracy theories are just spoiler alerts now.
Oh, that's
Um,
you know what's really weird is with the way that like information is these days,
Yeah, man.
you're probably not wrong. Like
Right, right,
that's the
right, right.
crazy thing, right? It's like information can be so like screwed up now that like
Sure.
I used to think, there's no, now it's like, well,
Yeah, yeah,
but
exactly.
here, but like the thing with Josephus is like in all of his books, right? And he
Mhm,
has an extensive like catalog of
mhm,
his histories. And the thing I like about Josephus is that his histories don't seem to be very embellished. So
mhm,
you have like Herodotus, for example, who's also like a Greek historian that we have to rely on because they're just in ancient days there just weren't a lot of true historians. Most of the
mhm,
time they were just like people telling legends because you know sex sells, right? They were like,
mhm,
oh, I
mhm.
could tell the story of this war, but how did Homer tell it? Well, we got inside this horse
Mhm,
and we got
mhm,
inside of the city and then we broke
mhm.
out and then, what I mean? It's like, oh, and
Yep.
then Achilles and then, like it's got to be like cool and like, magical. But Josephus sticks pretty straight to the book.
Yep.
It is interesting and you'll need to do a little research on this. And that is, there weren't a lot of existing like copies of Josephus like in
Mhm,
like the early like CE period, right? And
mhm,
and the version that existed was with one of the early church fathers, and they kept asking him to provide Josephus, provide Josephus, provide Josephus. Now there is a clear section of Josephus that I believe, and this is what for my 2 cents,
mhm,
I believe in, and so do some other scholars, that it was originally written as Josephus wrote it, which is basically like there was this, Jesus, and actually I have to literally grab my book. Dang it, I don't want to like break live with the Del Nut here. Once she pops back,
No, you're fine.
I'll grab my Josephus. But there's a section where it's like everything sounds like Josephus. He
Mhm,
does write about Jesus.
mhm,
I personally believe that Jesus was a real person. I think he walked
mhm,
on the earth. I personally also think that he was crucified.
mhm.
I do not deny that. I think there's
Yeah.
just too much. I think that there's too much evidence
I
for that
I
to be fake.
Yeah, I think I agree from a non-religious aspect that, you can that at least checks out.
Yeah. And then what's weird though is they kept asking like this church father to like produce the book. What did Josephus believe? And then in the version that was produced at that time,
Sorry.
which carried forward, right? Of course, in
Mhm,
the Roman Empire, which was, Christian at that
mhm,
time. I think it was around 400 CE. It was after 400 CE. It said who was like the son of God, or there's something in there that says like and Jesus who was the son of God, low
mhm,
key, just like by the way. And then you read all of the rest of Josephus, and he was a hardcore Jew. Like you're
mhm.
telling me he wrote all these texts and all these books And he then, in one paragraph, just drops the mic on a total heresy of
Mm-hmm.
Judaism. Is like, oh, and by the way, I'm a heretic, and then
Mm-hmm.
right back into it. Yahweh's everything,
Sure,
So,
sure, sure.
so I don't deny that, like, Tacitus, Pliny, Josephus, which, by the way, you hit the three. There aren't a ton of outside references to Jesus until you get
Mm-hmm.
into the period where Jesus becomes, like, Christianity becomes mainstream. Obviously, Constantine made the religion legal in
Mm-hmm.
325,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got Theodosius, who just, like, rammed it down people's throats. Technically, that was when they rammed swords down people's throats that didn't believe. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but after that, things start to kind of, that's when you start to get other manuscripts. But you bring up good points, so I'll stop there. Sorry, I
No,
love
no, no.
history.
No, you're fine. You're
I'm
fine.
trying to piece it together.
I was You didn't miss much. I told a short story long, as per usual.
Yeah,
course you did.
yeah, yeah. You
Sorry.
find, but you luckily came by and you stopped him from talking. So it was good.
She stopped me in time.
I'm sorry I left you, David. I'm so
No,
sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. I was like, I hope
David,
she
do you
comes
have
back soon.
pets before we finish this conversation?
I do. Yeah. Well, I have a cat. Yeah, I grew up
You have a
with
cat?
dogs.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, so you don't understand the plight of tiny dogs and their glandular problems.
Which is this?
Oh.
You may have to enlighten me, but it sounds like I don't want to be enlightened.
Well, if their glands are full,
Mm-hmm.
then stinky oils happen.
Oh yeah.
So stinky oils just happened from my dog onto my child.
Oh.
So that's
That's
where
not
I was.
fun.
I'm really glad to be back, guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You just
Oh.
had a
And we need
blast.
to make a vet appointment.
And I think glandular stink oil is something that'll get you banned from YouTube if you talk about it too much. So we'll just
true.
gloss over that.
This is true.
Okay.
No, but we were talking about because I was thinking about our conversation last time, and one of the things that initially kind of brought me to consider Christianity just in general, and it was the sources outside of the Bible.
Mhm.
And so I did a quick Google search. I was like, well, I haven't really looked at this probably in 11 years or so, however long it's been since I started this thing. But like some of these people, I just took a quick note. Josephus, what he said, one of the quotes is James, the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ.
Mhm.
And then it says, now there was about this time Jesus a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was one who wrought surprising feats. He was Christ. He appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. One version reads, at this time there was a wise man named Jesus. His conduct was good and was known to be virtuous, and many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die, but those who became his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion and that he was alive. Accordingly, he was perhaps the Messiah, concerning whom the prophets had recounted wonders. Julius Africanus quotes a historian, Thales, in a discussion of the darkness that followed the crucifixion of Christ in the extant writings. And there's one more. Tacitus, who is considered one of the most accurate historians of the ancient world, mentions superstitious Christians who suffered under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. Chief secretary to Emperor Hadrian wrote that there was a man named Christos who lived during the 1st century. But not, I think what Josh and I were talking about is that at least puts on the table that Jesus existed and was crucified, and from people that were not his disciples, believers, Christians, whatever they would have been considered at that time. Because I think that lends to something. Because if Jesus didn't exist, then obviously this whole thing has nothing to talk about. If he wasn't crucified, definitely not as well. But then something to consider. And so I think that's what got me on that journey. And I think we were going into Galatians, but I forget what I was trying to point to exactly. I don't know.
Who was the second, though? Because I need to look into the one that you mentioned. So you mentioned, so there's Josephus, Tacitus, and Pliny. Those are the three I'm really familiar with. But there was another one that you mentioned too that I'm not as familiar with that I do want to research.
Julius Africanus.
Okay, I'm gonna actually just make a note of that. Julius Africa. Okay, cool. I will look into
Put that
Julius
into a tab
Africanus because,
and-
quite honestly, I'm just as
Well, I was just saying make a tab and then we can look at it later.
oh yeah, I'm not going to look up now. I'm just
No, I was
saying I'm
going to
gonna look it up
wait, and
later.
I was going to just sit here while you read all his
Yeah, no,
letters.
no,
Okay, so
No,
we'll
it's
put
good.
our whole music on.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no. One thing I'll add to, and good point about like I think that our best like documentation of Jesus outside of the like tech or the Gospels and really Paul, because Paul was really
Mhm.
closer in time than even the Gospels, really is Josephus, because Josephus lived like right around the time that Jesus did. Like
Mhm.
they. And what's crazy is, could you imagine, like, what if Paul and Jesus like were like in the same town together at one point and like they didn't know? But that's just hypothetical.
Probably. Yeah.
But because they were all in the same zone, right?
Yep.
But just keep in mind though, like, I mean, Josephus also talks about like Hercules as like a historical real figure too, which is
Mhm.
cool, right?
Yep.
Hercules was a real figure, just like Jesus
Yep.
was a real figure. Does that
Yep.
mean Hercules did all the magic Jesus did? I mean, it's the same.
I've seen him in the
same.
movies. It might be.
Maybe,
No, I'm
maybe.
kidding.
You also have like Josephus also talks about like warriors fighting in the sky. So even though I will say that like Josephus is like more true to like factualness than like Herodotus or Homer or some of these others,
Yep.
there's still some embellishment. Now I will throw out to the viewers and I throw it to you, like, do a little bit of looking into this whole, because it's a little interesting, this whole like where the text like looks like it breaks off and then it's insert Jewish heresy and then back to Judaism. And Josephus was writing for the Roman Empire under Vespasian, which Josephus called Vespasian the Messiah, according to the Hebrew Bible. So like Josephus is an interesting case study, but I do want to get back into Galatians for sure because I love Galatians.
Sure.
What do you got for us in Galatians? And I got to get my other Bible for Galatians because that's where I keep more of my notes.
All right, let me hop back. I was
Here,
with you
give me
guys
those
in
ones.
Isaiah.
Oh.
Because that's the one you wanted, right?
No, I don't want this one.
No, that
This one,
I
yeah.
wanted the other ones.
Gotcha. Oh, this one.
What was it? Let's see here.
Also, big shout out to Galatians because Galatians is in most critical scholars' opinions one of the undisputed Pauline letters. So whether you're on the Christian or non-Christian side of the fence, scholars believe that Paul really did write Galatians. It's not like a pseudo-Pauline letter by any stretch.
Yep.
That's a good point. That's what I need to get better at, is which writings of Paul do we actually really attribute to Paul and which ones do we think weren't Paul? I want to get a better handle on that.
How they draw the line a little bit is like
unrelated.
Yeah.
While you were looking for
we can talk
Galatians,
about that later.
I find that interesting.
No, I agree. And lastly, I was thinking about the kind of trajectory we were talking about last time, because it started with kind of these outside sources. Then it was we went on a whole tangent on cult leaders, right?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, we did. That's right.
And then my kind of upbringing, and then I think it's this may kind of coincide with what Rocky was saying a little bit, but it was this kind of internal battle that you deal with, right? Like, and what I noticed, So what I noticed as I'm reading Galatians over is that Paul, for some reason, is like really adamant about going against false teachings, which I guess you could also say that is another justification of Jesus, like Gnosticism or whatever. Like they're still talking about this Jesus guy.
So can you state that one more time? Paul's going against
false teachings.
False teachings. Gotcha.
Yeah, false teachings.
Oh, I heard Paul's teaching.
Yeah, false teachings. Okay.
Yeah, he's really.
Wait. Paul's going against himself?
He's really he's really fighting himself, talking about this internal struggle.
It's an internal struggle.
Sounds like me every morning trying to get out of bed.
Right. But he's really adamant about fighting false teachings, even to the point of disputing Peter, which again, Peter can't catch a break, but it's which is so fascinating because Peter's on the mountain of transfiguration, he's walking on water, he's doing all these things.
Rock.
Yeah, he's the rock. Jesus like, hey, you're the guy, and then like Paul comes and like, I'm gonna write all these letters.
Yeah.
Wait, is that the rock Paul hit his head on?
Oh.
Oh, it's all
Oh,
connecting.
Oh,
dang, dude! There's the conspiracy. No,
We
just kidding.
caught it. But I find it fascinating because I think he's trying to fight for something, and I think even what we were talking about last time is that it's interesting of the first century Christians. Even you can see Paul, like the level of integrity or the attempt thereof, and like what's the win of whatever they're doing. Because the difference with these cult leaders and everyone who from probably the beginning of time who's had an interaction with God, like what do they win, and whom are they harming? And again, we were talking like over time, of course, that would get diluted, and then people do whatever. You get your new televangelist today, um, with a smile, and then take everybody's money for his private jet. But
Right. That, yeah, agreed. You can clearly see their motivations on that.
oh yeah. Well, not well at the same time, apparently not many. Um,
Right.
if they're paying them to get the jet, but
Right.
but it's like, okay, why is it so adamant to fight against these false teaching? Because he's talking about in one sort of this text of like against circumcision. To
Mhm.
me, if I'd be like, I don't care, like that's not that would be the least of my worries.
that's not
You
the
know what I mean?
defining factor.
Yeah, I don't care about your genitals. I can sleep at night.
Right.
I don't
Well,
care.
that is a very relevant conversation, by the way.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
continue.
But it's like, but again, it's the Jewish law, obviously, that obviously meant something tremendously, and then even Peter's tripped up about it, right? And so, which is very interesting. But he's really trying to fight for this thing, but it's way beyond just kind of circumcision. He's talking about the essence of the law, and like what the power of the law has, and like this law is getting in the way of freedom that's found in Christ. And I'm trying to find a passage to start off with.
Also, I appreciate
In
hearing.
Galatians?
I
Are you in
appreciate.
Galatians?
I appreciate hearing the pages
Yeah,
turn.
right. You've got a Bible
Because
in front of you.
I'm rocking the pages too. Because
What?
everyone just goes to the internet now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
fine. It's
It's
faster, but
it's
whatever.
I do
I'm a
audio
pager.
engineering. It's all a facade. I put glasses on, and this is all sound effect.
Yeah.
Um,
You're just hitting a
so-
button.
Yeah. Just the epitome of
He's got a
laziness.
keyboard.
Right.
Page wrestling.
Yeah. Insert page wrestling.
Let's see.
Yeah, being circumcised is like taking on the whole burden of the law, like being enslaved.
Yep.
Yeah.
Galatians 3, chapter 10. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down.
For
Maybe
all who rely on the
15.
works, here I can pull it up on the screen too for folks following along.
Right. That's the bonus as us
Yeah.
streaming to
Oh,
be
yeah,
able to
for
put
sure.
it up.
Might as well pull up the whole chapter. That might save
Yep,
you.
Galatians
But
3. Yes,
uh,
I hate out of contextness, so I appreciate that.
I'll start
a
That
on.
word.
was almost a word.
Out of contextness.
You foolish Galatians. That's
I know,
amazing.
man. Dude, Paul was hot in Galatians. He was on one.
I love how the Bible's like, hey, you gotta love everybody, be gentle, and then here comes Paul just yelling at everybody.
Dude, and this is partially why we know that this is really Paul. Paul is an
tantrum Paul.
emotional guy. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, and he had to be. If you think about it, you have to be like a charismatic, like emotional person or something. Like you drawing in people, because he really, if it wasn't for Paul,
Mhm.
there, the Christian movement wouldn't. I mean, and of course, if you're a Christian, you'll think that the Christian movement would have been inevitable. But
Sure.
really, Paul's the one. If you remove yourself from that thought process, Paul really took it. I mean, and he thought it was happening, like, in my opinion, like right now. So he was just like, dude, don't even don't even get a new job, don't get married, don't have kids. Just we're going. It's go time.
Well,
Like, he was passionate.
I was thinking about this last week. I was like, if Paul genuinely had an encounter with God, or what he thought was an encounter with God, I was like, he did exactly what he was supposed to do with his life. He was like, what else is he supposed to do? He can't be like, well, I'm just gonna go back to work and call it a day. It's like
1,000%.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Very, very good point.
1,000%
this is
agree.
God. What are we doing?
Yeah, 100% agree.
I'll start on 15. It goes, dear brothers and sisters.
3:15?
Yeah, 3:15.
Okay.
Dear brothers and sisters, here's an example from everyday life. Just as no one can set aside or amend an irrevocable agreement, so it is in this case. God gave the promises to Abraham and his child, and notice that the scriptures don't say to his children, as if it meant many descendants. Rather, it says to his child, and that, of course, means Christ. This is what I'm trying to say. The agreement God made with Abraham cannot be canceled 430 years later. When God gave the law to Moses, God would be breaking his promise. For if the inheritance could be received by keeping the law, then it would not be the result of accepting God's promise. But God graciously gave it to Abraham as a promise. Why then was the law given? It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins. But the law was designed to last only until the coming of the child who was promised. God gave his law through angels to
Whoa.
Moses, who
Hold
was the
on.
yep.
The only reason I'm saying that is because this is
Well, it's just a different translation.
well, I know, but I don't see anything about a child here. Until the offspring.
Offspring.
Okay. Sorry,
Offspring.
I was just trying. Like, I know we have different translations, but I
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to follow along. And
And
Yep.
actually, I can flip. What translation are you in?
NLT, the one you didn't like.
Oh, that's okay. I'll NLT it. Hey, it's better than the KJV, so it's cool. At least you're not going off of oh gosh, don't
well,
get me
you
started.
don't have to flip it. I was just looking for like something that.
No, it's easier if we go. It's
There,
easier if we
NLT.
go off the same version. Okay, hold on.
I was
Okay,
going to after that read the my Watchtower one. So
Oh yeah,
uh,
you're good. Dude, you're awesome, man. Okay.
Okay, but
where was I?
I'm so sorry.
No. It was a legitimate question. I'll
I was
start
just
on.
like, wait, if there's
We're-
a child in one and not in the other one, we got problems.
Well, that's a great question. Verse 19. I'll start there.
19.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Why then was the law given?
Okay.
It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins, but the law was designed to last only until the coming of the child who was promised. God gave his law through angels to Moses, who was the mediator between God and the people. Now, a mediator is helpful if more than one party must reach an agreement, but God, who is one, did not use a mediator when he gave his promise to Abraham. Is there a conflict then between God's law and God's promises? Absolutely not. If the law could give us new life, we could be made right with God by obeying it. But the scriptures declare that we are all prisoners of sin, so we receive God's promise of freedom only by believing in Jesus Christ. And I think it's kind of goes to that point when we were in Peter the last time of like, there's a lot of complexities to these Pauline letters, right?
Mhm.
But he's very adamant of like, listen, the law is not it. Like it was a guardian at some point, but it can't do anything more. It's like its purpose is to show you your sin, but it's not negating anything because it's always been about faith. Like Abraham had faith, he didn't have the law, um and so it's to show you something. But I think what Rocky was saying was like she was I didn't come on in the beginning when she was talking, but it's a conflict of a sinful nature. And then I think about myself, right? It might be in Galatians, no, it might be Romans, but Paul is talking about his own internal conflict and like he knows the good he ought to do and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that I think like we all have a conscience, we're all made in God's image, at least from the Christian perspective. And so, we know the difference between right and wrong, but there's still areas where I would violate where I know where I want to do something different. Could be I feel like every American will tag on lust. I feel like Christianity sometimes is like the crusade on lust, but it's like there's more to it. It's the heart condition.
Yeah.
But even as I was talking about my father, like it's like I know I should forgive him. Like even if I look at layers before him, like I know he came from an abusive household. Like so
Sure.
it's like it checks out. It was like I need to forgive him, but like
You
why?
can know stuff and still struggle with it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, but it's a real struggle because then, like, if the struggle's too strong, I'll be like, actually, I'm just not going to forgive him. So it's like that type of war that kind of goes on internally. And so that kind of put evidence to it as well. So I found that fascinating. And then, what's another thing here in Galatians that I was
And actually, let me throw something out to you on this,
Yep.
because you have some really really good points there.
Mhm.
So in a lot of the Gospels,
Mhm.
now this is where, and I'm just gonna, man, because this is our second conversation. This is where I'm gonna get meta on you here.
Oh boy.
You keep saying meta tonight.
I play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he does
Okay.
play Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, so it's a little unfair. I will tell you that I have an advantage. So
Okay.
the advantage is this. I believe, and unfortunately, this is where I feel like I have the advantage,
Mhm.
that there are that that the New Testament and the Old Testament were not all written by the same God. Okay.
Okay.
So I believe, let's take the New Testament, because the Old Testament's a whole nother story. No pun
Mhm.
intended. So I believe that in the New Testament we have sections and how it was put together. So I believe that you have, like, first the original Paul letters, the 7 Paul letters,
Mhm.
and then I believe that you have the Gospels, and Mark was first, and then I
Mhm.
believe Matthew and Luke were written closely together in 2
Mhm.
different areas, and then after that, you got the pseudo-Pauline letters, which are the 6 other letters of Paul that were used to kind of like Christians in certain communities were like, we don't really like that. And so then you get Ephesians, because you're like, you know what I mean? Like, but Paul said this actually. That's not what Paul
Okay.
actually
Okay.
said this, and it
Okay.
clarifies the other Paul letters. Now, what's sad to me is I bet Paul wrote a bunch of other letters that we don't actually have
Mhm.
initially, and
Mhm.
man, I would
Oh, for
kill to
sure.
get that. But
For sure.
anyways, and then after that, you get John that brings in Philo and Middle Platonism, and then you get like the school of James refuting Paul, and then you get Revelations, which was like an apocalyptic Judaism focused Christian movement. And
Mhm.
then you have all the Gnostic texts, and I hate that we group the Gnostics into one group, because there's like
Mhm.
Marcionism
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
all these, the Sethians, and all these different Christian movements having
Yep.
all their other gospels, and they got eventually thrown out during like the church period. So what we
Mhm.
have is this hodgepodge of texts, and I say text because back then they weren't even codices, they weren't even bound together as books,
Mhm.
they were scrolls,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So the advantage, unfortunately, that I have is that you have Paul's writings, like Galatians, for example, where he's like, it's not about the law, it's about love. But then, of course, you have James, where it's all about, like, it's more works driven. And you have in Galatians, like when Paul says the so-called super apostles,
Mhm.
he's talking about James, and that those guys, they were with Jesus. What he was saying, like, not even very much between the lines, like he was just saying, I mean, you can hear it in the tone. It's like, these guys think that they know because they were with him, and
Mhm. Mhm.
they
Mhm.
know
But they
because
don't
they
know
were
him.
with him.
Mhm.
But I know because I'm getting direct revelation. So whenever like Paul speaks, he speaks like this, like I'm getting firsthand knowledge. When you
Sure.
get like the gospels, it's like third person perspective. This is
Mhm.
what Jesus said.
Mhm.
Don't get me started on John, or Acts, I mean, where like, oh, yeah, okay. Side story. But what's interesting is you've got like Matthew, where it's like, in Matthew it says, I did not come to abolish the law or the prophets, but fulfill them. I don't,
Mhm.
the fulfill versus abolish, we can get a whole nother conversation about. You've got Matthew 9:16, 19, where he's like, keep the commandments. You got Matthew 22. Matthew, of course, who is Matthew writing to as a primary audience? And for viewers, and
The
if you want to
Jews,
like
yeah.
look this up, he was writing to the Jews, right? Exactly.
Mhm.
So he's all about, like, Jesus is all about keep the commandments in Matthew 19:16. And then you got Matthew 22:36, where he's like talking about the greatest commandments, and on these 2 commandments hang all the laws of the prophets. Now, in Matthew, that's where he gets into like, you brood of vipers, and he's like reaming the Pharisees. And it wasn't because of the law that the Pharisees were preaching, it was the oral tradition that the Pharisees, they were taking the law and they were adding stuff to it, like
Mhm.
that weren't the actual law. And so he's like railing into him. And in Matthew, the whole message, and you can go like Matthew 23:1 as well, do and observe everything, regarding the law, because he's saying the original law was the pure law, but in Matthew's message, I'm going to one up it. And that's when he's like, it's not just thou shalt not murder. If you look at someone with anger, it's as much as committing murder. It's not
Mhm.
just don't like take your neighbor's wife. It's like if you've looked with lust, it's so it's almost like in Matthew, it's interesting because he's taking the law and he's like, not only do you need to fulfill or follow the law, but I'm one up in it.
Mhm.
Now you've got Paul, and I'm going to ask you a question because I'm interested in your
Yeah,
thought on
let's
this.
let him talk again.
Right, sorry. My
No,
question
go
is
ahead.
this:
You're fine.
why would Paul have any reason to contradict the law? Like, why would he say, you know what, it's more about the heart and not about the law, when you've got like Matthew, who's hardcore, like, it's the law, and James is like, no, dude, it's the law. And even the other apostles at the time, Paul saying these are super apostles, these guys. What would
Sure.
be Paul's motivation?
Let me make sure I understand you. So you're saying what's Paul's motivation for saying the law is essentially not uh, the standard anymore? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Well, it takes more.
And you're saying comparatively, Matthew is saying the law is a standard, and the same with James, right?
Right. I would say,
To
like, at
some
that
extent.
time, yes, I
Yeah,
would say
yeah,
at that time, you've got Matthew, you've got the apostles in Jerusalem,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
the OGs, saying that we need to follow the law and you need to be circumcised.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Paul saying, actually, you don't. What would be Paul's motivation for saying, actually, you don't need to be circumcised?
I'm trying to think how to say it, but also I feel my sleepiness coming. So
No,
hopefully
you're
this
doing
makes
great.
sense. Hopefully
Yeah.
this makes sense. I at least on the Pauline point, like it's in the passage we just said, and then almost another chapter. He's like, it's a guardian up to some point, right? It wasn't, because even reading like the scriptures of the gospels, it's quite evident that like the Jews misunderstood something, right? Like even how they're holding to it, the Pharisees, yeah, they added more onto the law, but like if they understood it, if the gospels have a semblance of truth, or if it is true, or to hold to that statement, they wouldn't have killed Jesus, right? Because they're like, well, that's, obviously, because that's the Messiah. So they missed something. But he says constantly in Galatians that like, hey, the law, I'm not saying the law doesn't have a purpose. It had a purpose up to something, but it's not the thing that makes a person righteous. Like it's always been the faith undertone. What James is saying contrarily, and this is like we were talking about, the things to wrestle with. This is obviously one of those passages I think you have to wrestle with, because it's like they seem contradictory. Even someone that I think is much more wiser than me, I think this is one of the things Martin Luther was like, hey, this can't be canonized. And as we're going to, I don't think his deal was to create Protestantism, but he's like, James is not inspired because it's, contradictory, right? In the faith aspect. But and I want to see if I can even read the James to kind of say it more be outside of my own thought pattern, and if it will make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll flip over to James here. Yeah, if you find the verse.
Where is it? I think James 1, maybe.
James doesn't waste time with the law.
No, he gets to
it. James right off the bat.
James is like my dad. All about the law, all about following rules.
Listen, I don't need to get started on.
I'm interested in that, but I'm gonna let it be. I had to Google it. So it's James 2 somewhere. The section, at least how it is in scripture, will start in verse 14. You guys there?
Oh, yep. Just actually scrolling to it here. James 4. Yep, here we go. I'll pop it back up. Whoops, my bad. Popping it back up. There we go.
There we go. Oh, faith without good deeds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the good one. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, this is.
And I'm just reading a little bit ahead of time, just above it, just get some little bit more context.
Yes, thank you.
David, you took notes, didn't you?
No.
Like from last time?
He just has a good memory.
Or you just remember that much?
I'm taking friggin' notes.
Wait, remember what part though? Like what we talked about?
I'm just saying, like, it seems like you like took notes from our last conversation and you like did your homework and you came back like ready for class. You're giving me these vibes of
no,
like...
I did watch the video after I did it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, when I watched it, I was like, oh, I didn't make any sense. And so then I was like, I gotta go back. No, but then I'm tired.
Only positive feedback.
Yeah, no, you seriously, you represented well. I feel like you represent very well.
Great. Because I was like, that's definitely not exactly what I meant to say. But now I feel my sleepiness, so I feel like I'm even worse today. But we'll see. let's see. I'll read verse 8. It says, "Yes, indeed, it is good when you obey the royal laws found in the scriptures, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you are committing a sin. You are guilty of breaking the law. For the person who keeps all of the laws except one is as guilty as a person who has broken all of God's laws. For the same God who said, oh, I think that's actually key. For the same God who said, you must not commit adultery, also said, you must not murder. So if you murder someone but do not commit adultery, you have still broken the law. So whatever you say or whatever you do, remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. There will be no mercy for those who have not shown mercy to others, but if you have been merciful, God will be merciful when he judges you. What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing and you say goodbye, have a good day, stay warm, and eat well. But then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough unless it produces good deeds. It is dead and useless. Now, someone may argue some people have faith, others have good deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have good deeds? I will show you my faith by my good deeds. And
That's good. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. That's good stuff, actually.
And I'm thinking about Paul. I'm keeping Matthew to the side, not saying it doesn't matter, but I'm
It's a
wrestling
different
two things at
conversation.
once.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I think Paul, in other letters, is kind of saying no, because my mind just went blank, so I'm not going to say that. When I'm reading this passage in James, he's talking about. I'm not really reading it, and I hope I'm not interpreting it and forcing myself in a box to make it acceptable, just to be transparent.
Yeah.
But
Love
I'm
that.
reading it of saying, like, what is the purpose of having faith if it doesn't produce anything positive, right? Like, it's
Sure.
like, yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
great
Jesus,
question.
and I just believe. I think that's kind of the gripe, maybe
then
that we
that's
were
it.
saying of, I think I said it a few times last video. Like, I think the problem with people not being able to believe in the Christian faith is that, it's hard for Christians to be Christians, decent Christians. If we have more
Yeah.
decent Christians, the message will be a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah.
So it you can't just sit on faith, right? And I know probably the weakest testimony, I don't know if you can really put a weight to it, but I think you were saying this with Rocky. It was like, well, what makes it different? Because one person say I believe and I did this and I did this. The difficulty, I think, of living in life is like, well, what's actually the true thing? If it could be more blatant, I think we think that like people would just do it.
Mhm.
But
Well, and to
I
be fair,
Mhm.
if I was a god, why would I not want to make it as clear as possible
Sure.
so that
Yeah.
there isn't confusion
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
hundreds of different religions and
I
non-consensus? Like, why
Yeah,
would I
yeah,
not
yeah.
want to make it be like, here you go?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
that's maybe a silly question,
No,
but
I
maybe
think
it's not.
That's a good
I
question.
I honestly think like all questions when it comes to God in general, I think are very genuine. I to this day, even though being a believer and I think a mature believer for a while, like even talking to people who are not Christians and Christians, like there are things in the Bible and I was like, I don't like that, or that sounds a little too silly. Like even in the garden, I'm like, why are we talking to snakes? Why does Satan even exist? Like, I don't think that's a good idea. Sounds bad, like I don't see any
Sounds like
positive to this. But it
You
again,
don't like snakes in general, David?
I really don't. It's not my cup of tea, but this
That's
whole
funny because I used to have a snake.
oh, you did?
I did.
Yeah, it's not what not what I'd want.
Not my cup of tea.
No,
nor
no, no.
are
He
dog.
barely lets me have a dog. I would not get a snake now.
Apparently, they're stinky oil glands.
This is true. To be fair, I don't want that either. So, you guys just have a poor discernment when it comes to pets, it seems. But I think James is saying like your faith has to be more than just be like, yeah, I say I have faith. I think again, we have that same problem today. I think in Western Christianity, at least, right? Because it's like that's, it's so refreshing talking to you guys because I've been in church for a while, and I'm saying this is not always the case, but 1 out of the 10 times, people who are, um, let's say, leaving the Christian faith as it be
Uh-huh.
traditionally put, or trying to figure it out,
Sure.
uh, usually it's not paired with, like, just a struggle in my experience, uh, and I'm not saying it's all experience, just my church experience in my city, really. Um, but they just wild out, and it's very weird to me because 'cause I'm like, "Just say that, like, I don't care,"
What
and
do
it
you mean?
gets
Like they just like decide like I'm done, basically? Like they don't really have a reason or something? Or like
I talk with my friend who, is now the pastor, which I don't know if that's a plus or minus now, but, I met him in college, and now he's kinda there. But,
a
we talk
prophet in
about
his
this,
own hometown is not welcome.
you
Go
know? Um,
Uh,
and this may tie into this too, actually, but this is aside Bible now, this is just my personal church experience.
Yeah.
Um, I give you a recent example, and it's funny because normally I wouldn't, say this. I guess I would tell you this in confidence because you guys are basically strangers, but then it's, like, not necessarily confidence because it's on the internet, so I'm still
Right.
gonna keep out
It's
names.
well,
cool.
just use a fake name or something.
Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So
We're blacking out the David name on there.
I have
Do
a
you want us to redact this?
Yeah.
my first experience. So, become a Christian, and I think as most people who are genuinely trying to be Christians, like, "This is awesome, I figured it out." You find your little group, you all have your mob mentality of doing the
Mhm.
greatest thing in the world. And, there was this couple, I don't think they were Christians at first, but they became Christian, like, "Hey, we're gonna get married." They had 2 kids, I think, before being Christians or whatever. They get married. The guy's like, "Hey, I'm going to get a job in a state above." So he gets his job, and he's like, "Alright, invite the rest of my family down there."
Gotta move.
Hardcore Christian thing, but he's like, "I'm trying to provide for my family." So we decide as a group of people, Christians are really good at a few things. One of them is stacking chairs. The other one is probably helping people move. Um,
Man, you just gave me flashbacks. Oh, you just gave me flashbacks. I love that
that's
though, actually.
that is the
I
universal Western Christian thing. How many
Yepper.
chairs can you stack?
Yeah.
And
See, all that makes me think of as a band concert.
Well, they do that in band concerts too.
okay. See, I
But
never did band, but yeah,
shut
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because the ORC is the same room where you got to stack the
Yeah.
chairs. Yep.
You
Okay.
got
Yep.
to. So we're helping the wife move so she can go to the state above, and so we pack the U-Haul, drive them down, all that stuff, and then, like, we're calling the guy relentlessly, like, he's not picking up. We're like, "Alright, that's weird." And so, goes through this whole shamble of things, finds out he has a whole different family.
Oh,
Um,
no. I knew this wasn't going anywhere well.
What?
well, this is my point, and this is why it's different talking to you guys, right? But, this is my point. So then, has a whole different family. The wife has no place to stay because I can't remember if she was, like, minimum wage, didn't have a job. She was just depending on her husband, like, that was the plan, like, "Hey, I'm getting this job."
Uh-huh.
So he has his whole family. To this day, he still doesn't talk to his kids. Ended up having to go
Oh,
to
no.
a woman's shelter, and her kids were, like, small
Oh,
then, I think, like,
Those
4 and
poor
5.
oh. I mean, obviously her
Um,
too, but the poor
but,
children.
pro-Christian guy, you know, all that stuff, and it's like, see, that faith is dead. Like, that's not real faith.
I
Uh,
see what
um,
you're. I see your point with this story is
um
that like it's sort of like okay okay, that actually is a really good point you just brought up.
Mhm,
It's the faith without works thing, right?
mhm,
It's like you can have the faith and you can believe, but if you're also a crappy person,
mhm.
it's like, are you really a Christian? You know what I mean? Like it's like you can have the relationship because we were talking a lot about relationship in the
Yep,
last call.
yep,
It was a lot about the relationship. But if you're, I've got a really great relationship, but because I all I got to do is pray and ask Jesus for forgiveness and
Mhm.
boom, all my sins are forgiven. That means,
you m
this side hustle I've got, I know it's bad, but I'm praying it away.
yep,
So, eventually I'll straighten it out.
yep,
But what James is saying is that you can't just like pray away the side hustle.
mhm.
You've got to actually follow through with what you're saying.
Absolutely. And it's like, this is one more instance. This is actually recent, and it keeps getting more crazy. Uh, this is actually, I would say, actually a crazier story. I
Than
Oh
that.
my god.
Oh,
Okay,
right.
let's go.
Hold
So
on.
like
Let's go.
I work in a church now. I'm not on the like spiritual side. I do AV there before I was doing computer programming. But after COVID, everyone's like, hey, we have to become a production studio for some reason.
Mm.
Right.
And so but actually they don't say that, but I think most churches don't understand what that actually takes behind the scenes. But
Oh,
So
dude.
you are in like
I was a, I
IT
was a,
field
I was
though?
a worship band, so I get it, dude. Though that AV stuff is crazy.
it's crazy. What was your question?
Oh, I was just saying. So you are like your field, or you're like in the IT field, or like the
I am
tech.
by trade in school. I used to do web development, and then when they asked for help, I just decided to help, and I keep trying to convince them not to pay me any money, and they act like they
Sure.
can't hear me. I'm like, I don't need the money, but they keep paying me.
That's
So they
awesome.
keep it. So I wouldn't necessarily say we were friends. We were acquaintances. Like we went to campus together, all that stuff, and our circles just never really passed. It was kind of like we had 6 degrees of separation. It's like our
Mhm.
friends were friends of each
Isn't
other's,
it
but we never
wild how
passed.
much that happens too?
Oh, sure. Part of that I think is just kind of like life. It's kind of like being at college or something. You're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember you. If you see someone
My face.
10 years later that you just had in class, and then you're like best friends now.
Yeah, that
Um,
happened to us when we bought this house. We
really?
came with our realtor to look at the house that we currently live in, and the next door neighbor happened to be outside, and he looked at me and he goes, "Didn't we go to college together?"
Literally. And I was like,
I'm
oh,
standing in
Then
this
you feel like a
driveway, and
jerk
like
because
the
you don't
sun's in
remember.
my eyes. I'm like, "Oh, I know you from Spanish class. You're Jimmy."
See, I wouldn't remember because I have a terrible memory with people.
yeah,
But
that's my problem. But that's way she's way better.
we spent it all on remembering Dungeons and Dragons and
Yeah, there
random
it goes.
history
Oh
notes.
no,
Um,
no!
and so
No, it's eventually you guys are gonna have like some online D&D tournament, and the debate is over.
this is true.
And Josh and David are
Best buds now.
romancing their way into like their next D&D campaign.
It's cool.
So this instance, he was out of town. He moved to Florida, came back to where I'm at in 2 years. I think her family was in Florida, so they were there. So then he came back, just kind of living here, getting on their feet, finding a job and all that stuff, just coming back. And I was talking to him because I heard something was going on. I forgot what the detail was. I knew at the time. I was like, "Hey man, heard your marriage was tough." I was like, "I've been there." And I was like, "I think I'm getting over it." It was like, "You ever want to talk? We can talk normal human stuff, religion
Mhm.
aside." And he was like, "Well, I don't think we're going through the same thing." It's like my wife's been cheating on me with 7 different people, and
Oh.
like they have a kid together who's probably like 4.
Aw.
And he was like, "Yeah," and like last week she had like a DUI and we are about to go to court for a divorce. And I was like, I can't relate. But it's that type of stuff. It was like, if God didn't even exist, like what are you doing? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
this is insane. And
He-
as
I mean,
he
just human to human. What the
absolutely.
hell?
Absolutely. Like there has to
Yeah.
and like there's no remorse. And as he tells me the story, it's like no way. And so and even it divorce finalizes he has full custody of the kid, which in America is like not easy to do. And it's like,
Mhm. Oh
um,
yeah.
as the guy,
Well,
um,
general custody battles are just
this is true.
horrible.
That's true
Yeah.
as well. But it's like, dang. I was like, yeah. And she's a preacher's kid and all this stuff. So it's like you can't see it coming with really anybody to something like that extent. But like as he goes and he tells the story, it's like you know, it's like this duality. And like at first he was thinking like, oh, she had like a bipolar manic depression thing. And then she's like, no, I just wanted to do it. And it's like, like it's a level of heartlessness. And like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
difference between, I think, someone who is struggling in their faith, right? I was like, you can struggle in your faith and not just be a terrible person. It's
Right.
like
Right.
you
I
you
agree.
you know not to do that. Like even if you're not a Bible scholar like maybe
Right.
Josh,
Right.
you've growing up in church, something of the 10 commandments. Like
Yeah.
it's like don't
Yeah.
just overdo this. And just the humanity of like, you have a child, you have a husband. What are you doing?
Well, and what's interesting is like so I thought, and I know you
Mhm.
probably heard me tell this with Rocky, so I'll make it short. But like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that if when I left the faith, I literally
You
thought
would
that
do
I
something
was
like that?
gonna be like a terrible person.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there was
yeah.
a moment where I was. I literally
Mhm.
in my mind it was like boom, guardrails gone. I can do whatever I want.
Yep.
I'm in the business world. I can make the shadiest deal possible.
Yep.
And what's really weird is what's really weird is that I quickly bounced back from that, and I'm glad I did, because I'm
Mhm.
actually fairly successful in business, and the reason
Mhm.
why is because I'm just nice to people, and I'm not nice to people because I I think it's like a tactical advantage, but
Mhm.
I'm nice to people. There's things where it's like, whoa, I'm where I am now because I decided to just like help mentor this person
Mhm.
for free because
Yep.
I just wanted to literally help that person. And
Yep.
so it's like so it's interesting because faith without works is dead, which seriously, man, that is the best way. I have never heard James. In fact, I've listened to a lot of James sermons. I have
Mhm.
never heard James presented in a better way than that. I would take
Oh,
like that is the best way to present James
yeah.
because that seriously that was really really good. I
And
and actually
okay.
like from a philosophical like perspective that's like amazing. But like
Mhm.
but here's the part that gets me a little bit is like where Paul was wrestling with like the so-called super apostles,
Mhm. Mhm.
including James, right? Because
Mhm.
because in Acts it talks about Paul goes back to like the when he goes to Jerusalem and he
Mhm.
like makes his trek back and and it's a little contentious, right? Especially because like I think it was like Barnabas was involved, and then all of a sudden, like like I think Peter, fact check me, chat,
I'm
but
trying to
like
think of the reference. You keep
yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What happens is Paul's in there, and everyone's eating together, and it's super cool. And then all of a sudden, like all of a sudden, like somebody comes in, and there's this weird division of the eating because, like, all of a sudden,
Mhm.
wait a
Mhm.
minute, the
I think it's in
super
Gal like
apostle.
that might be in Galatians itself. Like I think Paul checks Peter like, "Hey, yeah, I he was like he goes in talking about circumcision like, "Hey, and to this point, Peter was cool. He was like, "Hey, you know, faith only or whatever, something like that." But he's like, then after a while, or when the Gentiles are just there, but he's like, then when the Jews came, Peter's just eating with the Jews at the high school lunch table,
And
and
now
he
you
called
got to
him out in
move
his face.
tables,
Yeah.
and he moves tables.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
moves
yeah, yeah.
tables.
Yep.
So what's interesting to me is this. I think where it boils down to, and this is where my sleepiness is also kicking in. So we'll end it after this. But
Well,
yours
That's
was a
fine.
yeah,
good
a
one to
couple
end
of
on.
minutes. Yeah.
Is that like if you think about it from Paul's perspective, if
Mhm.
you're so Paul's out with the diaspora, right? So he's in Gentile land.
Mhm.
Okay. He's with Jewish communities that are outside of Jerusalem. So
Mhm.
there's not a lot of like strong like Jewish law following.
Mhm.
They eat the food sacrificed to, the other gods.
Mhm.
They get meat that hasn't been strangled but has been,
Mhm. Mhm.
bloodlet essentially.
Mhm.
And uh like there's the whole like circumcision issue.
Mhm.
Like
The issue.
if you're in Jerusalem and you're Peter and James who are leading the church, which I think it's
Mhm.
fascinating. Do like if you do a deep dive into like who was the real leader of the church at the time,
Mhm.
it was like James predominantly. Like even Acts
Mhm.
admits it, but like it's a weird deal because there's like this James Peter or James Paul like contention.
Mhm.
But I think if you think about it from Paul's perspective, if I'm as a salesperson or
Mhm.
as a would be youth pastor am trying to like sell other people on joining my group, joining this
Mhm.
faith, and I'm like, but you got to get out the knife.
The circumcision. Okay, I was trying to figure out what you were.
That's a tough sell.
Well, they were doing it though. Like it was like Paul's upset, like, no, don't stop. Like, don't do that. Like Gentiles like, well, I'm trusting him. He's an apostle, they're Jewish, but Paul's like, don't do that. And that was my point of like,
Do you think it was that Paul was, and then this is a genuine question, do you
mhm,
think that Paul was like saying, you guys are doing it, stop? Or do you think it's
mhm,
like, because in Acts, it sounded more like, guys, stop forcing this cutting because it's not necessary. Now, from a
mhm,
from a sales perspective, I'm like, that would be a tough sell. like,
Mhm.
I'm in a position right now where I'm trying to deal with this right now, where it's like, listen, you're putting something on me that's tough to sell.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's not necessary, because if you think about the message of Christ,
You try to
it's
sell
not
like
about how much
circumcised
skin you
foreskins or something.
have.
Yeah.
It's what you do, not how much skin you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like this whole like, but then you get like Matthew saying, follow every jot and tittle. And then you've got like James saying, you know, more like more legalistic. And you
Mhm.
have in Acts the conflicts where it's like circumcision versus no circumcision.
Mhm.
And this might be because I'm a salesperson
Sure.
and a Paul probably type person. I'm
Mhm.
like, dudes, it doesn't matter. Stop making my people have to cut themselves to
Mhm.
join my group. This is ridiculous.
What
It's a
I
tough sell.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could see that perspective.
I in
I could be
Acts,
wrong. I
I
have no idea.
can't it's probably in there. It's just my brain won't connect me to it. But I was reading in Galatians where it talks about it specifically. Um because my I think it's a great consideration. My point was um arguing about the actions that you do, and I don't know, it's because we're in our modern era, to be fair, but like
True.
arguing about the actions you do is like, okay, I can see that. Arguing, Paul is specifically in Galatians arguing that, like, no, like, don't force them to do the circumcision, which as a Jew, you know, uh, that's a very stark thing to kind of stick to because like that's been a definitive,
Sure.
literally, all in Old Testament. But he's like, no, and let me see if I can find where it says it specifically. Um, I might throw on my Googles.
Yeah, no, you're good, man.
He's in his Googles too. He just set his Bible down.
Galatians 5. Um, Man, really a cool thing would probably, I mean, probably not for your stream, but really reading the whole thing because it's like, as I go
Oh,
back a chapter,
I
I'm like, oh,
agree.
it adds everything.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
totally agree. And if you have like a synopsis of the prior, or if we do need to read it, I don't care. We can freaking read it, man. Like I'm down with like I am here for the truth. The
yeah.
only reason, so the core of me is I want the truth. That's what
Hmm.
I want, the truth. So if we
Amen.
gotta
Me
read
too.
a whole chapter or two, I'm down. Now Adele's like, "What the heck,
I
dude?"
was like, all right, let's start in
Okay, I'm
Genesis
just
1
joshing.
and we're going to go
I
to
know you're with me.
Revelation. Just sit with me.
Don't put
Um,
words in my
Also, did
mouth.
I just hit your poor tattooed arm?
Yes.
Sorry.
This
oh,
man has been hitting my wounded
I'm like,
arm.
yes. Goodness
sorry.
gracious. What's wrong with
David
this
even
guy?
knows.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Um, I'm gonna start on 5:8.
Okay, 5:8. Okay, cool. I'm with you.
And oh, I lied. I was even looking at the wrong thing. I was like, no, I can't find it. I was in 4. Like, where is this thing? Oh, let's just start on 5:1.
Okay.
And mind you, this is Paul's thing. He's like, listen, you guys were free. I don't know who fooled you. I just cursed out Peter, telling him to stop, with his favoritism,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, man. They were at it. They were at it.
which again, it's like, of all people, you're going to curse out one of the 3 closest people to Jesus. Well, I didn't curse him out, but just check them real hard. Um, but 5, uh, actually, let's start in 4 verse 21.
Okay.
I'll do 2 quick points and I'll let you
No,
go.
you're good. You're good. Four
Verse,
through. I'm gonna say 4 through. I'm just gonna say 6, so we make sure we get it. Okay, gotcha. 421.
all right, so he's actually gives a Old Testament parallel that I'd like to connect with. Don't let me forget it because my little ADHD
Old
brain
Testament
went off.
parallel. Putting
Yeah.
it in my
With Abraham's 2 kids specifically. It says, tell me, you who want to live under the law, do you know what the law actually says? The scriptures say that Abraham had 2 sons, one from his slave wife and one from his freeborn wife. The son of the slave wife was born in a human attempt to bring about the fulfillment of God's promise. But the son of the freeborn wife was born as God's own fulfillment of his promise. So he's talking about Isaac and Ishmael here.
Yep.
These 2 women serve as an illustration of God's 2 covenants. The first woman, Hagar, represents Mount Sinai, where people received the law that enslaved them. And now Jerusalem is just like Mount Sinai in Arabia because she and her children live in slavery to the law. But the other woman, Sarah, represents the heavenly Jerusalem. She is the free woman, and she is our mother. As Isaiah said, "Rejoice, O childless woman, you who have never given birth. Break into a joyful shout, you who have never been in labor, for the desolate woman now has more children than the woman who lives with her husband." And you, dear brothers and sisters, are children of the promise, just like Isaac, but you are now being persecuted by those who want you to keep the law, just as Ishmael, the child born by human effort, persecuted Isaac, the child born by the power of the Spirit. But what do the scriptures say about that? Get rid of the slave and her son, for the son of the slave woman will not share the inheritance with the free woman's son. So, dear brothers and sisters, we are not children of the slave woman, we are children of the free woman. So he's alluding this slavery to this law giving to the commandments that Moses received on Mount Sinai, comparing it to Ishmael and all this stuff. So Christ has truly set us free. Now make sure that you stay free and don't get tied up again in slavery to the law. Listen, I, Paul, tell you this: if you're counting on circumcision to make you right with God, then Christ will be of no benefit to you. I say it
Oh, can
again.
you put that on the screen?
Oh shoot. This whole time, sorry, David, hold
That's
on.
okay.
This whole time I
We're in
thought I
Galatians,
had
right?
it on the
4?
freaking screen, and
You
I
just wasn't
didn't.
sharing.
I
It's
didn't
fine.
have it on the screen. Hold on. I've been just like reading it, like, oh, everyone can see this. Okay, sorry, there it is.
What I
Okay,
was
we're good.
reading for anybody watching it was Galatians 4:21, and I'm
Yeah,
going starting on
421, and he's
Galatians
spot on.
5:1.
Yep. Okay, it's on the screen now. Sorry about that. I was just like reading it on my oh, it's being shared. Okay, it's shared
Yeah.
now.
No, it's fine.
Oh, I didn't notice it either until someone in the chat says where they're reading from, and I was like, oh. I
Yeah,
looked, I was like, nope, it's not there.
Galatians 4:21, and now we're on
Galatians
Galatians
5:1.
5:3.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start back on 1 just to connect it.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
For anyone wondering, this is New Living Translation. It's not some offshoot. It kind of it's not a
It's not the
crazy thing.
KJV. It's
Yeah.
cool.
I think that's reason it's intended as most translations, but it's intended to be understood and read out loud, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that
Um,
actually does make sense. And honestly, I'm kind of you're converting me a little bit to this version. It
Okay.
is way
Amen.
easier to read than some of the others.
Yeah, I enjoy that because you already have too many hurdles of we're not historians, we're not Jews. It's at least
Right.
give
Yeah.
me something here
Give me
to
something we
not.
can
Something
actually
I'm already
like a little
bending my
bit
brain.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
yeah, accessible.
Yeah,
Some
I like it.
accessibility.
NLT. All right.
So Christ has truly set us free. Now make sure that you stay free and don't get tied up again in slavery to the law. Now I'll pause here because like if I'm Paul, I'm like, do the circumcision. Like, I don't care. Like that to me, I'd be like, oh, that's just your devotion to God and Jesus. Like, I'm like, what's the problem? You know? But they're thinking, like, no, I need to do this, or like, or Christ will not accept me, right? Because listen, I, Paul, tell you this: if you're counting on circumcision to make you right with God, then Christ will be of no benefit to you. Like, I'm worried about like feeding the poor, staying off Pornhub. He's just like, hey, keep a knife away from your penis, or like Jesus is no good to you. And I'd be like, what? Like, I'm trying. I thought I was doing the good thing. You know how hard that was to even get to? Like I was shaking doing that.
No, I really, really wanted to cut it.
Right. Or like usually for a man, that's the last thing. It's like if you fall out of an airplane and you're like holding your head or your genitals.
Yeah, exactly. I have a story about that, but I won't say it.
But then he goes, I'll say it again. If you are trying to find favor with God by being circumcised, you must obey every regulation in the whole law of Moses. I think that's the point that we always constantly get stuck to. It's like, yeah, it's not about it's not about being a good person because God has allowed goodness in all of us. That's the whole image of God thing. The issue is that like you break one law, you break them all. I think it says something similar in James of like, hey, if you commit adultery, you're also a murderer. Like you also have not fully done the law. So in that way, these kind of connect. And again, that analogy I was given about my own church situations, the 9 out of 10 times is something chaotic, and I'm like, ain't no way. And so, and I see the membership revolving, which is just normal religion stuff. But I'd be like, when I talk to people, I'm like, no, you had to do something. You had to beat her or something. But anyways, and so But he's like, yeah, if you break one law, it negates all. And another aspect in Galatians, I forget where it is. It's probably near maybe
So
2
that's
or
actually
4.
so let me make sure I understand correctly. So
Hmm.
so this is really good. So it says, I tell you this, if you're counting on circumcision to make you right with God. So basically what he's saying is if you're counting on the law to make it right with God, then that is like false because
Hmm.
you have to obey the entire law.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Now,
And
yeah, interesting.
I'll
Yeah.
say this too to connect it. That's why I think really, maybe we take a stream and just read all of Galatians. It's been really, it's recently for me, it's really connected and really helped me in my personal faith because I was trying to communicate this last time. I think it's, I was initially I would say as Westerners, but I think this is the human problem. And it was the Jews'
Interesting.
problem in the Old Testament, and it's like, and it seems like the thing to do, because, like, you're reading the law, you're like, "Oh, God wants me this madman just wants me to be killing lambs all day." He's like but really, like, everything that God has been doing, it says, like, the law is just a shadow of what's to come, and even, I may have read it earlier, but it may not have made sense, like, when I first went to Galatians, I forgot what I read, but he was trying to say, like, the faith and the Paul in Galatians saying like the faith and the law, they don't contradict. He's like, because Abraham was made right with God before the law. And it's like God can't contradict himself. It was saying that like the purpose of the law is to show us our sin.
So
Um,
here's my big question though,
mhm,
because we're talking about the law.
mhm,
So what he's referring to is the original law of Moses, which
mhm,
is, in Deuteronomy and Leviticus
mhm,
and, the original
Some
like
of the tough stuff.
the Torah.
mhm,
What is so special about the Torah? Because when you actually look at like ancient Hittite law,
mhm,
the law of Hammurabi, there are like, and I will provide this actually. So it
mhm.
and I can reference it in the link if we post
Yep,
this,
yep.
but there are like about 5 to 8 different law codes in the time period, not during Moses' time period,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
that's a little
Just in
bit
history, yeah.
sketchy.
Hmm.
It's like and you can say like during the time of like the Davidic like period
Mhm,
where they're all the same. And have you read in David, because you're a friend,
mhm.
we are
Oh man, I got the
not
friendship
going to
title.
pull up the laws in Leviticus
Sure,
that talk about slavery
sure.
and women bleeding on their wedding night
Well,
Yep,
that's
or getting
Deuteronomy.
stoned.
yep,
Well, that's Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Well, it's also Leviticus. It's actually
yep.
Oh,
both.
is
Or yeah, or stone, or in the
it?
New Testament where Jesus says that you should stone your child if they're disobedient because it was a law back in Leviticus. So we're
Mhm,
like we're talking philosophically about like these laws, and we're saying like, you know what, the laws, you should follow them, but it's not the thing that it defines everything, it's the faith. But when it really boils down to it, those laws that we're just like talking about, and this is what happens in church, is like the
mhm,
pastor gets up there and they're like, the laws, and it's not all about the law, it's about
mhm.
faith and the laws and the faith
Right,
and the faith and the, but the
right,
laws are sick, man. They're like
right.
late Bronze Age disgusting. And
Absolutely.
and so like, why did God, now here's my big question,
Mhm,
and I have to ask one thing first.
mhm.
Is Jesus the Son the same as Jesus the
God the
Father,
Father.
God the
Are we
Father,
hopping into
that
Trinity, huh?
Yeah, we're
talks?
hopping into the
No, 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 no,
Trinity.
no. I don't. No,
Well,
let's.
it helps
Let,
Go
because some
ahead.
people differentiate old and new,
Sure,
right,
sure, sure.
Yahweh
but some
versus
people
Jesus.
are, and I'm not trying to have you commit heresy with like, dualism or anything, but like, did Jesus, and I'm not even going to get into did Jesus talk to himself in the Garden of
Mhm,
Gethsemane. We're
mhm.
not going to go there.
Sure.
But did Jesus make the same laws about slavery and women bleeding on their wedding night and the whole selling your daughter thing? And keep in mind, I get it because we're
Mhm.
we're all intelligent here. We
Sure.
all know he didn't say you had to do it, although there is one where I can probably find it pretty quickly where he does actually say, like, do this,
Mm-hmm.
but he condones it. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't not. So, what would be more impressive to me when we're talking about the law is if Jesus, assuming he's God the Father also, that talks to
Mm-hmm.
himself in the Garden of Gethsemane,
Mm-hmm.
if this schizophrenic person, like, why didn't he just say back in those days, like the Quran argues that Allah knew science before we knew it in the future. They've
Mm-hmm.
got a pretty good argument there, or a
Mm-hmm.
better one. Why didn't they just say, you know what, guys? Just like he said, don't have any other gods before me, don't create a graven image, don't own other people as property.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's with the old law? Like, why are we even talking about this law in the first place? Like, why are we reconciling this law? It's almost like an apologetic in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's up with that?
That's a big question.
What was the last sentence you just said? Because I was thinking something, then I had a text
Well, I'm like,
ping, and
what?
it
Like,
didn't.
it's like an apologetic in and of itself, where we're
Mm-hmm.
discussing, like, Paul says you don't really need all the law. It's about faith, but still have the law because this matters. But why are
Mm-hmm.
we talking about the law at all? Because it's kind of disgusting. And if we think
Mm-hmm.
that Jesus is God, as proposed by John,
Mm-hmm.
student of Philo,
Mm-hmm.
why do we think that, like the law is disgusting? So
I
why,
agree.
like, did Jesus write it? Because Jesus is God.
Yeah.
Jesus is the Father. They're the same.
I think that's a common consideration. Now I wonder, I want to answer that, but I think obviously, like when we go to those scriptures that you wrestle with, I wrestle with,
Hmm.
it would take a lot longer. But I think the core is
That's
already
the next. That's the next session.
yeah, yeah, it can be. I
Yeah,
think
I
it'd be
would like
great.
that actually.
But I think the core here, I think the core kind of to that answer is even right here, because I think how we'll interpret it is he's basically saying, like, listen, if you circumcise yourself, Christ is of no benefit to you. Like, that has no morality compass to it, right? I would argue even slightly barbaric, you know? Like we cutting genitals essentially. Like why?
Dude,
You know?
in the Old Testament, the angels are circumcised. They go so far as to say not only the humans, but the angels by Yahweh are circumcised.
Right. Right. Now, some of the laws that I
Take some
know,
serious scissors for that action.
of course, the ones that you're talking about,
The seraphim?
I can't think of the symbolism for them. The circumcision has a symbolism of something new. But anyways, it's like the laws still are like, sacrificing animals, all this stuff, right? But normally when we interpret it in the pastor, we're talking like pure morals. But it seems like right here, this isn't even a morality issue. And that's why I was saying, like, it's very interesting because Paul is fighting for this. But like, why fight for that? Because that's the Jewish that's the
I
way
think
you
he's trying to break away from it. I think he's in a
right.
point where he's like, but here's the thing. It's like, do you believe that Jesus is God? So first of all, that's the first question.
Mhm.
Do you believe that there's one God?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you believe that Jesus is God?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you believe that Yahweh is God?
Correct. Yeah.
So do you believe that Jesus wrote the laws in Leviticus and Deuteronomy and in Exodus also, where it talks about things that are the laws that are condoning barbarism? And do you believe that, because you've read the Bible enough to know the worst bits, I assume you've
Sure.
read like the cannibalism, the Amalekites,
Mhm.
and all
Mhm.
the horrific things.
Mhm.
And that's the part that gave me whiplash when I was a Christian. I was like,
As it should.
how is this Jesus that's saying, give the freaking cloak off your back?
Right.
The
Take care of
same
the
Jesus
poor,
that says,
the
this land,
suffering.
and by the way, now we know because, like, I live in the United States of America, and it is cringy to me to think that we came in and wiped out the Native Americans as much as we, or put them in their little sections.
Little reservations. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what Yahweh commanded. Now, we can do the same thing every single, including, I hate going to this reference. I'm going to find a better one because
What are you about to say?
Uh-oh. What's he
Nazi
gonna
thing.
say?
I don't know. Oh,
Well,
I don't
no,
know. I'm trying to predict this.
it's the whole
You
Nazi
didn't do
thing.
it.
Here's the thing. Here's the
Oh,
thing.
You
They
didn't do
took
it.
it's been done over and over and over
oh.
again, and it's just
Sure.
the most recent one where it's like it's probably not the most recent, where you take a people group and you say those weren't people,
Mhm.
those were
Mhm.
animals, those weren't people, those were savages,
Mhm.
those weren't people. So when I was a Christian, I was like, oh well, the Amalekites, those were just like they were
Savages.
all, even the babies were terrible. Like we knew that God knew that when those babies grew up, they were going to
They
be
were
the
going to be
most
horrible.
sinful,
Mhm.
non-believing, treacherous people.
Mhm.
So they weren't really people. It's like you
Mhm.
dehumanize a
Mhm.
group to be able to like
Justify.
justify genocide.
Mhm.
So if you believe that the loving Jesus of the New Testament is Yahweh, how can you possibly read the hopefully you don't read the Old Testament, but if you do, how do you read the Old Testament and be like, wait a minute? I mean, do you just, because what I did was I went, I just put it
Sure.
off
Sure. Sure. Sure.
into the closet and I was just like,
Right.
whoop, lock
Well,
that door. I like the loving Jesus because I'm a good guy.
sure, everybody would, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
then I I feel like that would be a stronger conversation, not to address it, but I think I don't wanna miss the point here because this is
Mhm.
something that I recently came to.
Okay. I do
Yeah.
want you to finish your point. Yeah, finish your point. Yeah.
Um, Paul's in this instance, he's not even addressing morality.
But he is addressing the law,
He's talking about the law, right? Now the
and
law
that's
does encompass rituals,
Cringe.
it encompasses,
It's the
uh
law of Moses.
yeah, but the law of Moses is it's morality, it's coming up in a new society, it's priestly rituals of, how to
it's all of it.
sacrifice animals, it's all of this. But he's like, even if he caught them like, I'm sacrificing the lamb to like worship God and stuff, and like this will make me right with God. He's like, no, like don't do that. And I think to me, I feel like this is the more trickier part than trying to reference how to or reconcile how to live through the things that are happening in the Bronze Age of the Old Testament, right? I think this is the tripping point for even active professing Christians because it's like I feel like people in churches they miss this point. Like instead of say circumcision, it's like, hey, well, I'm doing this stuff, but they experience no freedom in Christ,
Mhm.
right? That like Paul is talking about. And it has nothing to do with like, are they smart enough? Are they good enough? It's you have to come to the point like what Paul is trying to say and the scriptures are trying to say, the whole purpose what Jesus is coming to do, if the New Testament is true, is that like on judgment day, it's going to be like, hey, how's it going? Finally got to meet you, God. And it's like, I did my best to be a good person. It's what we wrestle with, like, why is my good not good enough? Because that seems sense was like, dang, I get the whole life. I at
Well, I
least
think
did
that's
it,
a human thing too.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. But I think the worst part is like almost like Paul talking to this Galatians, like they're getting tripped up. Obviously, they're genuine, they're believers, right? But he's so frustrated because like, no, 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 don't miss this point. And I'm so upset that these false teachers are like messing you up, right? But he's obviously, I used to think it'd come off with anger, but he's actually very passionate, right?
Do you know what one
Um,
of the major false teachers though of that time
mhm,
that was emerging and it eventually became like Marcionism
mhm,
was that the early Christian movements were latching on to Jesus. And by the way, I would love to talk to you just about Paul sometime because I have
mhm,
my whole story like theory about Paul. But like you have like Marcionism and all these early church movements that were non-Pauline that eventually became heresies, but they were
mhm,
all at the same time large, and that's why everyone's worried about. Hey, don't talk to those false gospels, or as Paul would say, the super apostles. Don't
mhm,
talk to these guys. Don't talk to
mhm,
those guys. But a lot of the stuff that was happening was that they were reading the Old Testament and they were reading in modern Greek society. So
mhm,
if you can imagine, this is the time of Aristotle. Okay.
mhm,
So we've gone from Socrates in 400 BC, we've gone from Plato, we're Aristotle, we're into like Zeno in like Stoicism. So we're in like an enlightened period.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to read the texts in Greek because they had the Septuagint, which don't get me started on Matthew and his mistranslations of the Hebrew text because he only knew the Septuagint. But you've got these like like people reading the like the Old Testament, the Septuagint, and they're like, what the hell? Like you're talking about this and what? Like it was like Yahweh was barbaric, and they were literally saying that they called Yahweh the demiurge, and they were believing that there was like an all-powerful being up here. And again, this is not real. I don't believe in this. I'm not Gnostic. Like, but they were trying, again, it was like an apologetic. They were trying to say, okay, here's the deal. Jesus is real because Jesus is love. Jesus is like Confucius, Buddha, Hillel, Simon Magus. Take any of the, actually not Simon Magus, sorry. Take any of these like people of the time or pre-time that were preaching a gospel of love and like human like love. This is a vastly different story than this barbaric Yahweh character. There's no way he was the same person, because at this time in the early Christian movement and in all of the gospels, there's no such thing as Trinitarianism. That was Tertullian in like freaking 300 CE. So this was like 300 or not 300, 200 whatever, 70 years later. Like they were like trying to reconcile this. They were saying, listen, here's the deal. There's this all-powerful holy God. There was this demiurge that created the earth, Yahweh, because technically, if you actually know the Hebrew, it's not in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Technically, and viewers and people want to look, it's in the beginning, like God took what was there and started forming the heavens and the earth. That's where that whole thing came from. It's like Yahweh took what was there and started forming it. They're like, Yahweh was a product of like the good God, and like Jesus was actually from the good God. And Paul was saying, don't listen to this, like blah blah blah. It's actually really was from the Jewish God, because of course Paul was like a leader in synagogues. He was of the Jewish faith. And that's what carried forward. Of course, the victor writes history. But like, how do we connect Jesus, because we're talking about the law, all this has to do with the law and whether we follow the law and what about the law.
Right. We all know the pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, how do we connect Yahweh that wrote this barbaric law to Jesus of love? And that they're all the same and they all connect, and take and pick what you choose of the law that you want. Like, don't do circumcision, but do...
No, that's the thing. That's not, I think that's the trip up. It's not about the essence of what they're saying is that, like, if you break one law, you break all of them. That's a real core thing to sit with. It may seem unfair, but it's like, that's what they're saying. It's like you break one law,
So how
you
do you
break all
feel
of them.
about that?
I personally feel indifferent. I think of it this way, and I don't want that to sound heartless. And I because what again, the least of the testimonies is like the personal freedom, and I've never really kind of gone into that. But I'm reading Paul and I'm like, oh, I think I kind of know what he's talking about. What was I going to say? How do I feel? You remember a couple years ago, there was like a WNBA player. I think it was like Brittany Griner or something.
Yeah, I do actually.
And she was in
Which
some
is
other
weird
country.
that I got a reference, but yes.
Yeah, she was in some other country, and she was like smoking weed or something. They're like, "You going to jail?"
Yeah, it
And then
became
we
a
were like,
huge thing.
right. And then, in my opinion, I'm like, why's she in jail for? Like, it was like she was in there for a long time. I don't know if she was ever getting out. They were treating her like she was Pablo Escobar. It was crazy.
Right. Well, and I don't know about you, but a lot of the states around us, it's completely legal now. So
Right. And
Right, so
of
we
all
do.
the drugs, with Amsterdam being nearby, and it's like of weed. And
Yeah.
she probably didn't even know the law. Like, if she probably knew it, she would have been like, I'm not going to do that. But she didn't know the law, right?
Is this like a
Well, I'm trying to connect it.
parallel? Yeah.
No, actually, I
I'm
get where you're
interested in
going.
this.
Yeah, go. Yeah,
And And America, I think Trump was probably in office and did a crazy trade. It was like some massive like gun smuggling guy. We like traded him and
To
made
get
him
her
free to
back.
get her back, which is crazy because like no one watches the WNBA. I would be like, I wouldn't have made that trade. Like if we're talking about it was Kobe Bryant. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, we didn't even know about Britney till that happened. But
Right.
it was a thing, but it was like she broke their law and that's
Mhm.
their rule, you know. I don't think it's fair, but it is what it is, right? And and it's like imagine Britney's in here, they're like, you know, she's chilling with murderers, she's chilling with adulterers. And it's like it may not be fair, but they're like, yeah, we have a law here. You break one of them, you break them all. You're like, all right, stupid Russia, but it's like, well, Russia runs things. But Russia's like, also, I want to show you your creator and like all this stuff and this evidence and blah blah blah. Do you just believe them? And they were like, nah. And be like, all right. Now that may be like a super simplification here, right?
No, it's
Yeah,
appealing to Job.
I mean, it's an appeal, and I get honestly, I get the attraction to making that comparison. But if I were to compare that to some of the laws of Moses that I just can't actually stomach,
Sure.
I just don't know if it's enough.
Well, I feel like what you guys are talking about is leaning to like, is the law fair or the morality of God in itself, right?
I'm
And what
more
you're saying is it
I'm
doesn't matter if it's fair, the law's the law, and so that's what
I'm
happens.
more interested in
Kind of,
like the
not necessarily.
terrible things in the Old Testament. Sorry, I was just gonna like I'm not gonna like read them, but like some of these verses, like in the laws of
Keep hitting that with my
in the
mic.
laws of Moses are so Bronze Age. And here's the thing. Here's where I think that if there's any Muslims on, by the way, we've got quite a few viewers. If there are any Muslims on and you want to like shout out to Allah on this deal, go for it. Because here's where I think, and we're not going to talk about Aisha and the whole underage thing, but
Are we shouting out to? Okay,
okay, no,
I'm
we're
sorry.
not actually shouting out. But what I'm saying is like
You're
the
making choices
Quran,
right now.
the Quran has some points where it says that and keep in mind, dude, it was what like 600 CE. So
Mhm.
like the Quran has like 600 plus years on like
Mhm.
the last New Testament book. So it can come in and say, we knew this science before no one else.
Mhm.
And so oh yeah, well of course the Old Testament didn't know about the firmament, which I would love to get into about like the
Mhm.
whole flat earth situation in the Old
Mhm.
Testament. But it's like, wouldn't Jesus Yahweh, wouldn't he be able originally, when they first wrote these laws, to say, don't own humans as property? You know
Right.
what? I'm gonna if I was a god, now actually,
Sure,
and
sure, sure.
I'm gonna tie this back to your Job appeal. If I was a god, I would not say law. Actually, I might say this: law number one: have no other gods before me. I would actually do that.
Okay. You're not.
But what I'm saying is, I would throw in there: don't own humans as property. I took you out of Egypt. Don't own humans as property.
Sure.
Like, why could? But instead he says, and I'll start scrolling the obligatory Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy,
Mhm.
slavery
Mhm.
laws of
I don't think
Moses.
we need to do that with David. And I
Agreed.
think we've touched on that a little bit
Okay.
previously.
So where would you go with this?
I would say I'm trying to decide if the point that David's trying to make right now, and that's what I actually kind of want to clarify with him, is not necessarily about whether or not we even agree with the laws or whether or
Mhm.
not we
Mhm.
even think that they're right or wrong, but the fact that they exist. And to his point with like Brittany Griner, like we may or may not agree with the fact that that law existed and it put her in prison and we had to fight to get her back,
Mhm.
but it does exist. And so the repercussions exist. So to that point, it would be like whether or not we agree with the laws of Moses and whether or not those translate into the New Testament and this point, like we may or may not agree with them, but they're there and we have to deal with them.
Yeah. And I want to say this too. Again, these are the wrestling points into like I think this is a fiber, like a small cornerstone that I think Paul is fighting for though. Because again, fighting for circumcision seems very arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that should be the good
Like
thing.
that's the one detail, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
like
hill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the Jewish law. Sure, like Gentiles be like the other Jews. You're not like it's a celebration that the Jews or Gentiles are worshiping the same God now, right? Like, why are we tripping up on that? Um,
Right. Good point.
but like I think Rocky was saying this, and I think this is a Christian dilemma. What's the verse? As much as I do context, I'll just do a verse.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Galatians 3:19.
Bringing it up.
Galatians night.
I love
Yeah,
Galatians,
we're
by
just
the
chilling
way.
in Galatians. Galatians chapter 3:19.
I'm bringing up all of Galatians. I'll put it on the screen here. Hold on.
And this may answer your question because we keep talking about like what the heck with this law. And he talks about it previously, but he goes, "Why then was the law given?" 19
Here we are. Okay.
Why then was the law given? It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins. And like it's like that's why it's there. Like he's telling you that's why it's there, right? And so
So
the point
I was raised to understand that, and I
Mhm.
believed that the Israelites appreciated the law, and I understand why. Like
Mhm.
it's sort of like if I loved my parents
Mhm.
to the like I just love them. Like they're like my God. If my parents were like God, I love them. I want to know how to make them happy.
Mhm.
I want to know. And so when if my parents gave me a set of rules, I would be like, "Thank you because I want to know how to make you happy."
Mhm.
That's the way I understood the law. And
Mhm.
that's what I feel like this states in a good way. It's like,
Mhm.
why was the law given? Because it was to show me where I was wrong so that I
Mhm.
can know how to do right to make you happy.
Mhm.
Is that kind of like what?
I think that's an interpretation. Not saying that I don't even know technically. I wouldn't. Maybe my church taught it, maybe it didn't, because I picked that up again as well. I think sometimes when people are talking scripture, it's like you'll say something you're like, "Oh, I'm picking up what you're putting down here." It's like, "Oh no," and this is kind of the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make with Paul. Like,
Yeah.
but it does allude to that, right? Even in Galatians, it does say. I don't remember if we read it, but it specifically says like the law, even though it doesn't save us anymore now that we're in this new covenant with God, he keeps making new covenants with people. It's like it did have a purpose. Part of it's to show us our sin, and it says it was like a guardian until like there was real freedom came. These are all shadows, these are all kind of symbols to point you more to Jesus, like Passover. Like we don't do Passover anymore for like certain reasons. Like, well, I guess it was a 1 minute in Exodus, but it was like the Lamb of God. It's like he's trying to like, hey, it's Jesus, is Jesus. Even circumcision is supposed to represent like the circumcision of the heart, having a new heart. It's like I don't care about your penis. And so it's pointing to these things. It's like it's pointing to Jesus. Um, and I'll give you another example from the chaos of church. And again, when I hear these stories, I try to also think like, what else could have happened? And in this instance, the other as I try to think of like, oh, were they actually good parents? Because the truth of it is, you never really know how people are behind closed doors. But there was we're at like a little men's group. Again, I'm
Yeah,
talking
the
about little
show can be
Christian,
really good.
talking about Christianese over here, our little men's group,
I love it.
and guys talking. He's having a rough time. Everybody's talking about their rough things, maybe vaguely, maybe just whatever, because we all said we were going to be here, and we were the real Christians because we showed up at 7 p.m. to talk for an hour.
Sure.
And he was like, "Yeah, my son." I think his son's like 18. He's like, "Yeah, my son. Pretty sad." He was like, "I found out my son wants to go to Washington State, and which is I'm on the East Coast, and so it's very far away." And he's like, "Yeah, but I found out from his coworker, he didn't tell me." That made me kinda sad. I was like, we're like, "Oh, man, it is kinda sad," but, I was thinking like teenagers, they be young and dumb type of stuff. So 3 to 4 months later, he's like, "Yeah, my son's at Washington State," and he's, like, broken about it. And I'm like, "Well, let him grow." I didn't say anything, I don't think, but, it's kinda like, let him spread his wings, and he's trying to you just explore life.
Give him a little space.
Give him some space.
Yeah.
He's grown now, like, let him. But it's weird because he's like only working at Walmart. It was like, well, I don't know if you had to go all across the country just to go work at Walmart. But he's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, he doesn't call me
Your
or my
brother.
wife back at all. Like he's like, and this is the hitting point. He's like, he doesn't call me or my wife back anymore. And he's like, we haven't talked to him in like 6 months. Like even to this day, it's probably been like a year and a half ago. They still haven't talked to him. He's like, the only communication we have with him is we're like joint owners on his bank account. So we just follow his bank account to make sure he's okay. And I feel like that's kind of that parallel with God. Like for some of us, it's like, hey, I just want to, it's almost like God has pushed us in a corner with the law to be like, hey, you're sinful and like you need me. Like you need me. Not and we'll think that like this dictator thing, right? But then you also have to see like there's a bloody Jesus on this cross, right? Like he didn't just leave you. He's like, I'm doing this. I'm like 40-day fasting. I'm fighting Satan. I'm taking all this ridicule. I'm getting flogged. I'm sweating blood in Gethsemane because this
Hmm.
had to happen, right? According to these scriptures. He's like, this has to happen because I want you back. Like it's a very strong statement. But for us, we're like, uh, well, if I please you enough, but also I don't really think you're my dad. And you'd be like, wait, what? Hold on. No, well, let's establish this part, and you're like, well, no, and actually, whatever. I can do all the stuff that you taught me, and I don't even know. Like there's some
Yeah.
disconnects that happen. Um, but essentially in Galatians, it's saying like, hey, the law is here. It did protect Israel at some point, but it wasn't really the true thing. It talks about in 2 Corinthians 2. It's like it always says like it's something greater, and it's like kind of pointing you to Jesus, but it's like, y'all, that stuff's dead. It was like if it worked, there'd be no need for a new covenant.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
like it had a purpose, but like it's weak, it's earthly. This is something supernatural and spiritual happening. This is your inner being. And what he's saying is like it shows you your sin on judgment day. We did good stuff. I think every person at some point has done good stuff, to be fair. No one's like, even baby Hitler wasn't Hitler as a baby, like,
Yeah.
but it's like,
So
Jeffrey Dahmer had some really good intentions, supposedly.
absolutely. And maybe he had a
technically,
problem.
Jeffrey Dahmer is in heaven.
Yeah.
Last I heard, actually.
He may or may not, right?
But
here's my well, let me just finish this
Oh,
last
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Finish your
Let's
statement.
finish that.
Yeah.
Let's do a little summary.
It's like on judgment day, just like whatever the commandments are, if it's all 600 or if it's just the major 10, it's like we did our good stuff. We loved our people. We loved our enemies. We planted the orphanages. We even decided to get circumcised at the age of 35 just to honor our God, right? And he's like, all right. And he's like, I really appreciate that. He's like, how many lies have you told? And he'd be like, all right, have you lusted? How many times you lust? You'd be like, you ever got angry? I think you're Jeffrey Dahmer. You'd be like, well, okay. And then it kind of shakes. It was like, you ever use the Lord's name in vain? And you'd be like, ah. You ever had any God beside me? And you'd be like, he was like, well, let me go to these other 500 too. Because I didn't see you ever kill a sheep. And you'd be like, well, and then at part of you at the same time, you'd be like, well, I don't think this is fair. But I know for me personally, there are laws that I don't agree with, even laws that I am unaware of. But I know that I fight laws that even I think I shouldn't violate. And I think that's what it's saying. Like I violate the laws. Like I know I shouldn't lie, but I will lie at some point, right? I know I shouldn't lust, but I'll be the top commenter on Pornhub one day. It'll be like it's I don't want to be angry with my father, but sometimes I want him to pay for his actions, you know? And it's like I am guilty by this God-given law in Russia to this Brittany Griner thing, whether I agree with it or not. If it's the law, it's the law. And if anybody ever makes it in heaven, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about because I was going through some crap with just external stuff, and it was insane and disturbing. And from these little crazy Christians make me like look inwardly, like maybe I need to go to another church at least. But I was like, if anyone makes it to heaven, whether you're on this new earth and you're just sitting in the field or something, you finally see God face to face. And it's not like God hates you, because I used to fight I think even any genuine person, but really someone trying to fight for their faith, it's like, man, does God love me? Be about your day. Maybe I got it. Maybe I do some more stuff. I got to build this orphanage so he'll love me. I got to earn your love.
Right.
And it's like, bloody Jesus, like
Literally.
he loves you. Like if that's true, he loves you. If he's not a lunatic, if he's not someone trying to get something out of you and have this revolution to bring new Israel, if he is God, he didn't just come to be like, hey, I just wanted to show you and I'm out. He's like, I'm trying to bring you back, right? And if
Yeah.
that's true, it's a purpose. And if you're sitting in heaven, if I'm sitting in heaven, and I'm not even like a staunch person of like, you got to have all the docs, you got to get all the right stuff. Again, we're getting this all panic and tizzy because even
Do you have your real ID to get in?
right, even in Jesus's era, you got your Pharisees, your Sadducees, your Zealots. There's so many people. They're the Jews. They should know. They didn't even know. They had their multiple denominations and they're fighting each other, all type of stuff. Some's for power. It's all different. They're all still looking for a Messiah. But it's like if you're sitting on heaven, you're like, I shouldn't be here. Like I don't deserve to be here.
Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to end it on this. If you want to, like,
Sure.
but if we want to end it and then come back, because we're gonna always post. My question is this.
Mm-hmm.
And you now have the dog in the picture, by the way. This is our lovely
Wow.
Gracie.
Gland
Stinky
itself.
butt.
That's right.
Stinky. We're gonna
She's
call her Stinky.
glandular.
So how or why is your version of Jesus different than the Book of Mormon or Joseph Smith's Jesus of Latter-day Saints? How is your God different than Muhammad splitting the moon in two with Allah?
Mm-hmm.
How is Vishnu different? Because all of these books profess the exact same thing. Confucius, phenomenal philosophy, and by the way, more coherent because there's not the problem I addressed earlier where you have Paul, Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, Revelation. Oh, I didn't mean to actually bonk her in the face. Revelation is like over here. But Revelation is technically more with like the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Wow.
But what I'm getting at is like, why Christianity? Because all like you can go as deep as you're going. So you are like
I'm not even on the preaching staff.
No. Yeah,
exactly. I just pushed the light on.
Down. Like if you took like Buddhist like texts, or heck, right now I'm into Socrates. If you started going down Platonism, oh my God, dude, I could talk for years and say, but this is what Plato really meant, and this is like actually, but you take this dialogue and you compare it to this dialogue. It's like Galatians versus James. The Republic versus, it's like you're down this rabbit hole with like these texts, which is great because that's the text. And what's funny is like my dad, who I hope never finds this YouTube channel,
my dad either.
He's like, all he knows is this. He's like so good at this that if he would do this, oh shit! Like all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. But Bart Ehrman. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of
I agree.
context out there. So I would leave it at this. If we have, which I desire upon anything else, to like have another conversation. Let's I would love to have another conversation. It would be like outside of the this, which is just basically like these texts. Because like, let's get into like Daniel and Maccabees. They were both written at the same freaking time. 167. Like the Hasmonean dynasty probably wrote the book of Daniel, or at least the second part after the stories, right? So like, after the stories. So there was like the stories of Daniel, and then there was like the prophecies. It's like if you get meta outside of the tunnel vision,
Sure.
the world just gets different when you're thinking about the text.
Absolutely.
Is all I'm throwing out.
Absolutely. You have to give me time to read all this. And since I'm not an avid reader, it'll probably be about 3 years. But you're like, I gave you one
dude,
book.
there's plenty of
Audiobooks,
YouTube videos.
audiobooks.
Sure, this is
Also,
true.
actually, you know what I would suggest? There's a YouTube channel called Deconstruction Zone.
Mhm.
Dude,
Yes.
just YouTube Deconstruction Zone. The guy who like hosts it, like we know him personally
Mhm.
because we like love his channel. But
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
dude, just YouTube it, Deconstruction Zone. Justin is his name, and it will, if nothing else, it will sharpen your whip. Like I'm not
Or
saying
it will
you
help
need to
you think about
deconvert,
what
but
you
like
might want to think about.
yes,
Sure.
Yeah.
and it will also help you be able to like it's like the master apologetic, because once you
Mhm.
hear what he's saying, you're like, oh, I need to like be able to like
Mhm.
follow these, because I was an apologist. So
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I feel like we went a lot of places. I feel like that was really fun. It was really good.
Yeah.
I freaking
We
love
were
you,
tired
man.
when we started like an hour and a half ago. We should probably cut it.
We do need to cut it.
Can I have 3 minutes?
Oh.
Absolutely. But only if you say hi.
Hi, Glandy.
I, yeah.
So the essence
Oh
where
my.
oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
No, you apparently set her off.
That's
She's
right.
louder than she looks.
So that essence in Galatians where he's talking about being free, he's comparing Isaac and Ishmael. He's talking about the law, but then he's saying like Isaac, he's like, you guys are like Isaac, and like, you know, I don't know if he's like descendants of Isaac or something, but he's like, he's trying to say there's a way that man tries to get right with God. He's kind of alluding to this Moses thing and Ishmael. And so there's a way that God has people get right with him through God's way. I guess that's a kind of base point, right? But then if
Yeah.
you go to Genesis, wherever Abraham sacrifices Isaac, maybe 20.
Got you.
Kind of horrifying also, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, without question. And they put it nicely. They're like, Abraham's faith was just tested.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah. Can you imagine being Isaac?
One of the
Absolutely.
greatest stories of all time, though, and that's
It
why.
is, no, it is a
Dude,
great
I
story.
love the Bible is my literal favorite book, bar none, bar absolute none. The Bible is my favorite, absolute favorite book. Yeah. Anyways. Genesis 2:22.
Yeah, let me see where to start. Let's do.
It's already in Genesis 2. Genesis doesn't mess around. That's why I love Genesis, besides the doublets, which we started talking about with
At
the
the beginning of everything?
documentary hypothesis.
Yeah.
Which, David, are you familiar with the documentary hypothesis?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
That's a tongue twister.
Let's start on verse 1. It says Genesis 22, sorry.
22.
22.
My bad.
Yeah. Genesis 22, verse 1. Oh, I think you may have to throw it up to share.
Yep, I got you. Okay.
Sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. They were just talking about Moriah in Galatians. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you. The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son, Isaac. Verse 2 is very particular to me because this is a purely Jewish text.
You've got only son.
Yeah.
You've got was there a donkey involved?
There was a donkey.
Yep, and a sacrifice.
Oh, there's about to be a donkey.
There's a sacrifice and there's a donkey.
Well, the next morning there's a donkey.
But how many children does Abraham have?
Well,
do we know actually?
Wait. He had with Hagar, he had Ishmael before he had Isaac with Sarah, because he didn't actually have faith, and he went ahead and just screwed his concubine.
Absolutely. which isn't a bad deal. Like if I'm Abraham and my wife's like, "Hey, I need you to go sleep with this woman," I'd be like, "I'll make the
She
struggle."
did
But
get
like,
pissed later
she did
and then was a bitch to Hagar, who
absolutely,
then ran off,
I kind
she
of
who
forgot
was.
this
then
story.
God was
Did I block
like,
this out for a minute? Because
actually,
now it's all coming back.
anyways, but go ahead.
But
I
this by
digress.
itself, this by itself is a Jewish text, right? Like this
Mhm.
is not technically a Christian text. We just
No,
took it.
no, this is way before
Yeah,
Christianity. Yeah,
we
wait.
just we just
Yeah.
took it. But Isaac is the younger son.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Jacob is the younger son
Okay.
with Jacob and Esau.
Interesting.
But
I
verse 2
hear where you're
says,
going.
"Take your son, your only son." This is not just an NLT translation.
Because the other one is illegitimate.
One is the son that God promised in God's way, that like it says in Galatians. But it was talking about something else. It was comparing the law, and it was like Ishmael and Isaac, being made right with God through the law in the human way, being made right with God in God's way. So I'll keep going.
But isn't
Um,
that kind of gross? Like, sorry, Ishmael, you're just like a bastard.
No, 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 because also God does bless Ishmael and Hagar, but he's trying to make a point, and it's not even Abraham's fault because God made him a promise. And if I was Abraham, I was like, I could see Abraham like, oh, well, maybe this is what he means. Like he told me,
Like, Abraham didn't have a lot of faith.
I don't know if it's a faith thing. To be fair, there's not much about God before this. It's like he's old. He's like, bro, I can't have children. God's like, yes, you can. And he's
But he
like,
didn't believe God, and he didn't believe that God was going to literally give him a son. So then he went into his concubine because also Sarah didn't believe.
right. No, these are years later. It's not a belief thing. I'm saying it's very interesting that they're saying your only son. What God is saying that like Isaac is purely a miracle through God. Ishmael is not that he hates Ishmael. Ishmael is like Abraham trying to do it through the effort that he thinks works. But it's a very interesting through a human
It
context.
just is also interesting to me because it seems like Abraham doesn't have a lot of faith.
No, Abraham has a lot of faith, but it's not about Abraham's faith either. It's like God is making, I'm saying like it's very particular. God is consistently, people, it'll kind of be the out. They were like, oh, of course the Christians will read it this way because blah 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 and this, and they'll twist the prophecies because the Jews weren't seeing it this way. But there's a constant in scripture of like there's always a strong symbolism to Jesus. But this one is this would be in all ways very incorrect because Isaac is the younger child. He's not the only son. And they make a
Agreed.
very strong parallel. In the Christian context, this is a parallel for obviously Jesus. And it goes on.
Wait.
How is this a
How is
parallel?
that a parallel to
Sorry,
Jesus?
I didn't get that
I
connection.
don't get that. Yeah.
Abraham's the father. He's
Okay.
asked to sacrifice his son, his one and only son, whom you love so much.
But he technically had another son. It was just
Yeah.
with a different woman. But her vagina
Right.
didn't count because she was
No,
the
but
concubine.
her
And by the
vagina
way, a
didn't.
concubine is a sex slave.
Yeah. That aside, the point
Sex
is
slave aside.
Okay.
no.
So let's.
Okay,
But
go
hear
ahead.
me.
Sorry.
It's exit out all the morality,
Right.
right? Like I'm with you. There's some crazy stuff. There's some stuff that's like it
I
seems
like to
wicked and all
just
that
push
stuff.
morality aside when I read the Bible.
No. No, this is a very strong point that
Okay.
this is my woe with my own Christian brothers because I think there's a real freedom, right? And I see so many people walk away and I feel like I'm the only one around that has freedom. And it's saying this in Galatians. I'd really encourage you just to read and compare to because he's
Okay.
technically not when he's talking about Abraham and Ishmael, he doesn't say specifically just about Jesus, but he does say like what he's trying to compare with the law. He's like, then the circumcision thing that he's tripping about, he's like, you guys are trying to get right the human way, the law way. He was like, no, the law is just to show you that you're Brittany Griner, right? That's all it's here for. It was to protect you for a little bit, but he's like, Jesus has always been the answer. He's always been the answer. And I'll prove it to you because God is doing something miraculously each time. Because if you don't have that context of Jesus, this makes no sense. And this is another thing that you can throw of being like, yeah, this Jewish text is extremely barbaric. What insane person would sacrifice their one and only son or two sons or son, period? Any crazy person would do that so that hears from God goes to court and goes to go to death row, right?
Would
But
you
he's like,
sacrifice your son, like if God
um,
told you in the
no,
prayer? Let's
no,
not let's not go there. Go
no,
continue.
hear
Sorry,
me,
I'm not
hear
trying to
me.
derail. Go
No,
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
hear you, and trust me, with all my heart, I hear what you're saying. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
but let's not derail. Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
he's talking about his only son. In the Jewish text, that doesn't make sense. And that's
Right.
not something that like the Jews in the middle
I
of,
think
I
the
mean, the
rabbis
Christians.
would very much disagree with you, sir. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pull a flag on the play and say that the rabbis would say
Well, of
the
course,
F word and say,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
dude, this is the pivot point of our religion or our faith is Abraham and the fact that he took Isaac up, or yeah, because he was like, this is what we are about. Like,
Right. But to be fair, like, what if it really isn't a case where the Christians are just trying to redo something? I'm just not saying that because I'm a Christian. Like, I'm trying to connect the point of what Paul's saying,
okay,
right? And he's because we're asking, like, what about this? What about this? What about this? But like, this is a strong point, and not to offend the Jews or anything, because I'm out here praying to a bloody Jew, you know, um,
Mm.
that like it's not off that they keep getting it wrong anyways. You know what I mean? Like prophets are dying, they kill the Messiah. It's not because they're stupid. It's like they didn't get it either, but it's not their fault for not getting it. It's very human. But the thing that makes Christianity so amazing to me, I haven't even told you stuff that I've been doing in my life, which again I think is the weaker testimony, is that like I really think this God carved out in time, and of course anyone can say this, but like he's trying to make something very evident, and it's much more beyond an apologetics in your brain here. It's like God is like, this is my way. Will you accept it? But I want to go on here. Sometime later, I'll just start back on verse 1. Sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. Take your son, your only son. Yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you. The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took two of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place God had told him about. On the third day of their journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Stay here with why can't I
with
get
the
stay here with the
donkey.
donkey.
Yep.
Abraham told the servants, the boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. So Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them walked on together, Isaac turned to Abraham and said, Father. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. We have the fire and the wood. The boy said, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering? God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son, Abraham answered. And they both walked on together. When they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. At that moment, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven. Abraham, Abraham, yes, Abraham replied, here I am. Don't lay a hand on the boy, the angel said. Do not hurt him in any way. For now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld from me even your son, your only son. Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in the place of his son. Abraham named the place Yahweh Yireh, which means the Lord will provide. To this day, people still use that name as a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. And as a Christian who believes in Jesus, and even before being a Christian, the Abraham Isaac story is insane.
Yeah.
Not in like a cool 90s lingo, insane, radical, cool dude. I mean, like, it's
But
insane.
can you imagine putting
Who
yourself in this position?
who would kill their own son?
Who would
Why
get to
would
this point
God,
and then be like, oh, good, I don't have to do it?
yeah, why would God tell someone to do that? And like to your points of like these things in Leviticus, Deuteronomy, slavery, this part, I'm like, this is another thing you add in there. But
Absolutely.
what if he's trying to tell you about Jesus? Like
He,
seriously, like
he,
the God in general, this whole
okay.
story. This one and only son, Isaac holding the wood on his shoulders, the ram's head getting stuck in the thorns of thickets, this ram representing, the uh, uh, crown of thorns. And that could be conspiracy theory, deeper stuff. But
No,
this
man,
one,
it was written like 600 years after the fact. So like
absolutely.
if I'm a halfway decent author and I want to spin a tale, why wouldn't I just write whatever I want?
Right. But this one and only son thing, it still won't check out.
Yeah, that's
Especially if you check out the concubine.
Right, but you can't check out the concubine.
Well, no, we did because technically he had 2 sons.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
Ishmael,
right.
so
Oh yeah, you're saying the same thing.
Yeah. But I'm like, he has 2 sons. That'd be grammatically incorrect, no matter how they came. It's like,
here's my question.
yeah,
Why didn't Yahweh do what he did with Abraham with Jesus?
he did. He wasn't as barbaric to be like, kill your son, right? Like he's like,
No,
whoa,
No,
whoa,
he
whoa.
literally did
No,
kill
he
his son.
didn't. He found a ram instead of his son. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm saying is, if you're an all-powerful God, meaning you
Mhm.
can do anything,
Mm-hmm.
why do you have to kill a person or your son or a child? Why wouldn't you just find the ram in the thicket and then everything's all good? Because technically in the Old Testament, Hezekiah, there's another one too. There's actually 2 or 3. I'll find it for our next conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But there were 2 or 3 at least people who God finds blameless and says you are completely blameless and you're sinless. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't Yahweh, instead of sending his son, why didn't he say, instead of that, I'm going to find this ram in the thicket? You know what I mean? Like, does it have to be my
Well,
son? But I
that
get it. It makes a really good Mel
point.
Gibson movie. Because
Yeah.
if you whip a human to pieces and then you make it a story like the no greater thing of a man to lay down his life, we all love the trope. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great trope.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, come on, guys. Like, why is that different than like any other religion? Like, why is Christianity real? It's great. It's great story. It's great theology. But why is this real? Like, especially because there's so many inconsistencies. Like, we haven't even gotten into the contradictions, which are
Maybe.
vast. Which
I
you're adept enough to know how vast they are. That like,
But I would argue Genesis 22 verse 2 is a contradiction just in the Jewish faith alone. Because he had 2 sons. And why do they make an emphasis in every translation that says your son, your one and only son, like King James, all
I
this
know
stuff.
there's better contradictions than that, but like, why? Like,
But if Jesus is in
why?
play, it's not a contradiction. It's trying to point you to see it.
Oh
Like
man, I'm
Abraham.
sorry, guys. I'm sorry, David.
Uh-huh.
Everyone else might buy that, and if they do, I might be totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if the whole thing is like, I don't know, that one's a stretch for me. I'm just saying that one's a stretch for me.
Really?
It's a stretch. That one's a stretch.
Then what would be the point?
Exactly. What is the
Good
point?
question.
But I'm telling
It's just
you
a
the point.
contradiction.
Well, it would be a contradiction in the Jewish faith. That's not his only son.
Right.
But this is written, this is Genesis.
But you realize in Genesis it talks about like the waters being separated from the waters, and we're talking about like the firmament and like the fact that back in those days I thought, like, dude, Genesis is got
Wait.
problems. Go ahead.
David,
Mhm.
what shape is the earth?
You said what?
What shape is the earth, David?
Round, a sphere.
Okay, good. Okay.
Just
Sometimes we get people we talk to, and then all of a sudden they're like, "I know it's flat," and then I was like, "Crap! This whole time I didn't know
Wait,
we were talking to."
But you're telling me you think this is a strong stretch or like not something to consider?
Wait,
of
which
being
part?
of being
Okay,
The flat
interested.
Earth
okay,
or
no, no, no,
oh,
no, no, no,
you
no.
brought
The
the
Okay,
Abraham
Abraham
okay,
Isaac
story.
so
I
story.
I
interjected.
think what you're saying, is that, and actually, I think I know where you're going with this.
Hmm.
So I don't think you're crazy. First of all, I
Okay,
don't think
okay.
you're crazy. First of all, I could be crazy, but I think what you're saying is, if this text was written in like Genesis,
Whenever BC, yeah.
Whenever BC,
whenever
love it.
BC, yes, and it had the apparent contradiction of one and only son because concubines don't count. But if we count concubines, technically it's your second son.
Hmm.
Then you're saying that it only makes sense if we count concubines because we're pretending like the Old Testament cares about concubines. Then we're saying that there's
Hold on.
technically two sons. Go
Does
ahead.
he? I just wanted to know if he agreed with that point before you keep going forward. Because if he doesn't, then there's no point in keeping going
Do
No,
forward.
you think that the Old Testament cares about concubines?
not necessarily, but I think it is very peculiar that he keeps going, your son, your one and only son, and then he
No, I think that
proceeds
that's very
to
peculiar,
then he
I
especially.
just think
proceeds
that it's
to
the same
sacrifice
way.
him and put wood on his shoulders.
Right. I
You know what
just
I mean?
think it's this. I think it's the same way when they said that like 600,000 Israelites left Egypt, and they were really only meant the men. Which, by the way, means that there was like 2.3 million people that like left Egypt and
Hmm.
like traipsed around with no archaeological evidence. That's a whole nother story.
Right.
That's
Hmm.
this. Okay.
Well, my main point with this too, though, is that like what we were reading Galatians, it wasn't technically talking about this sacrifice story. What it was talking about is Isaac and Ishmael are two symbols of something being made right with God, God's way through Jesus Christ, and the other way, which is by the law, which it was comparing to Ishmael. But you're saying like, which I think is consistent in scripture, is like, yeah, concubines and stuff don't matter, right? But what I'm saying, Paul is actually acknowledging Ishmael. He's just saying that's a human effort, just how Abraham made a human effort to bring a child forth. And because like, oh, God
That's
promised
great
me this.
philosophy. I know a lot of great philosophers.
Yeah.
Like Philo. I encourage any of the viewers to read Philo. In fact, if you read Philo, you'll really understand John because it talks about the logos,
Hmm.
like which is the word. When John says in the beginning was the word is technically in Greek logos, and
Hmm.
Philo was all about logos, and that's a middle Platonism like philosophy.
Hmm.
But I I I think so I understand the connection you're making. You're saying like this contradiction only makes sense if Jesus was real, which I get that, but like we do need to you dang it, David, if you come back, which I really hope you do,
Hmm.
we have to then you just opened a can of worms about contradictions, and we can talk about contradictions. I would love you to like bring apologetics about contradictions
Sure.
and 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 it can be like simple contradictions, whether it's like just like this in because
Numbers
here,
don't match or something.
okay, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna give you the meta, okay?
Okay.
No, I do.
All I'm going to say is let's keep it brief because
I'm keeping it
we
brief.
said an hour ago
I'll
we were
end it.
tired
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Adele is tired.
Okay, very very briefly. First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings were written, and then First and Second Chronicles came to fix Samuel and Kings. So there's a lot of contradictions between Samuel and Kings that Chronicles had to fix because the priestly source came in to fix those. So I can wipe those off. We can just wipe those off the table if you want to, or if we want to dive into those, we can. There's a lot of other
Sure.
ones, but I would love to talk about any of this
When's
stuff.
the next time you guys think you'll be online, or gotta
Well,
go with
that's a
the
good
wind?
question. We don't have an official calendar yet.
We're getting there.
Okay.
We're starting to
We're
like
working
settle
on
into
it.
our
Okay,
rhythm.
okay. I'm sure
I would
I'll
say
find you
probably
guys.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday for sure. And I'll make sure we pop it on our thing early.
Okay,
You're
We'll
okay.
try to schedule it out once we know.
you are I don't want to say my favorite because we have other people that we really like too, but you're one of my favorite people to like talk to.
I bet you tell that to all the people that get on there.
No, but we actually have gotten a lot of feedback on our conversations.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
And you're
man. I think you guys
very,
awesome too.
you bring a very intelligent conversation to the table. Dude,
And
literally
kind and honest.
take,
I feel like you're honest.
go back to wherever, go back to this recording to your
Well, he
like
said he did that last
thing
time.
on James.
I thought that he had like a
Dude,
notepad.
take it to your church. That's a sermon, and that is the
They-
best sermon. I've never heard James explained as well. That
They
that
don't
was
they don't
really
listen to me
good.
at staff. They want to have balloons and Easter egg
Nobody
parties. I'll be
listens to
like,
you,
let's
it's
just
fine.
read the Bible. Shut up and push that fader.
Override him. You're the AV guy. Just like
Right. I just mute everybody.
I love, dude. I love you. Thank you
Alright,
so
yes,
much.
Thank you. We're gonna call it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
late. She's tired.
Have a great
Yes.
have a great evening, and
Good to see you
until
again.
next
Thanks
time.
for coming back.
Likewise. See you,
All right.
Dale. See you, Josh.
See ya. Bye.